Hopefully you can all hear me. How many people? 2 people watching. That's good. Right. Hello, Ironman Spartan. Hello, can you hear me? Ironman Spartan 2. Let me know if I'm audible. Tina, hello. Yeah, hello, guys. Hi, Paul. Hi, Richard. Hi, Tina. My videos from the underground. Thanks very much, Tina. Darren, hello. That's great. Oh, how are you? Hello, Colin. How are you all? Are you all well? Oh, good. Legend Real. Oh, hello, you Legend Real, Colin. I'm Spartan Tina. It's nice you guys. We've got 14 now watching. Oh, I'm feeling a lot better now, thanks, Tina. I had a bit of a bad episode, as you know. Whiteheady. I am white. As you know, I've got to wear a hat. Otherwise, I look like a big egg. Hello, Green Sky. From Dumfries, Scotland. Thanks for dropping in from north of the border. How are you? Hope you're okay, guys. Solonazellite. Sonalezolite. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Welcome. 1984 is already here, but worse. Hey, you've anticipated a lot of what I'm going to say this evening. Yeah, I'll just wait for a couple more people to arrive. We've got 16. Hi, Claire. How are you? You got Cosmic Claire. And we've got Lime Specs reporting for duty. Thank you very much. That's great. 18 watching. Williamism. Oh, hello. William 111ism. Hello. Are you not S. Williams? Williamson, are you? No. Gary. Hello. The real Gary Robinson. Accept no cheap imitations. I'm glad you're here, guys. I really am. All right, just 17 watching. That's good. Anyone else? Is that all? It's going to be a long. I think this is going to be a 3-hour job, I reckon. Claire. You know that 1984 was inspired by reviewing C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength. Claire, you said something about that. I remember I was going to look up about it, and I didn't. But you did send me something that Orwell wrote about. He wrote about C.S. Lewis. You did send me this article he wrote about C.S. Lewis, and I remember they had a bit of an argument, if I recall the article you sent me. And indeed, this comes up with some of the. I think one of the themes in Animal Farm, which I'll come for this evening, is actually related to that, about basically George Orwell's attitude towards the spiritual world. He was very much an atheo-materialist, and that seems to be his clash with Lewis. But I will come on to that later. That's an interesting point. Nothing seems. You've got to dash for a bit of speed. Don't say anything remarkable. I'm gone. Nothing. I always say things remarkable. I hope you won't go too far. Only to the Frisian back, I hope. Not all the way down the off license. Darren Retro. All didn't predict 1984. It was 1984 at all. There was no breakdowns in it. That's right, yeah. And they didn't. Oh, God, I remember when I first heard about 1984. It was actually in about the year 1984. I was at school. And the teacher started telling us about this book called 1984. And it was written a long time ago, but it was set in the present year. And he said, it's nothing like what we have, though. Thanks, Iron Man. Yeah, I've got the fan on. I'm sorry if it's... I've got a fan. Here we go. It's this here. All right, it's one of these. It's supposed to be like a special quiet one. But if it makes a noise, I'm sorry, but it's just too hot in here. It's way too hot. Right, someone is calling from there. Oh, right, someone... Hang on, where am I? How do I get on the light? Oh, Lisa. Right, Lisa. I'll send you a link. One moment. Oh, Lisa wants to know how to get. She gets on the live stream. Okay. Do you have a Google account, Lisa? I'm just going to help my old friend here. Got it. You got it. Right, Lisa. It's very simple. You just go to my channel, and you'll see the live stream playing on my channel. Hopefully on my channel page, and from there. You simply start posting, Lisa. Oh, you got it. Great. Brilliant, thanks. And Tina's here. Oh, Tina, just got to sort these things out. So I just got to. One second, just got to get rid of these. The thing is, if I don't clear these messages, they'll end up being. Oh, otherwise, they just pile up. Okay. 1 second. Sorry about the pause, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Okay. That's everything. Okay. Let me just go to the. I'm just going to go now to the. Which I should have done earlier and I didn't. I'm sorry about that. Let's go to the channel page. Is Lisa? Are you there, Lisa? Oh, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. How you doing? And Paul's there. Now these guys listen to Panlo TV, believe it or not. Right. So let me just go to. Come on. I'm just going to get the comments from the. Here we go. I'm just going to grab the comments from. Here we go. From the notice. Come on. Oh, Villon Aura is back. That's great. I'll deal with these at the end, but let me just insert them into my notes. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it gives a chance for Iron Spartan to get his beer. Right. Okay, let's go back to the top now. This is going to be a long one anyway. It's going to be a long one. There's so much to say, literally so much. Lisa, great. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for joining. Hanafi Din, welcome. Lime Specs is here. Liverpool won the European Cup in '94. I'm not that good a memory. I was here, but I was a little kid. Giving my age away now. But Paul and Lisa they often listen to her Panmo radio as well. You just scrubbed up for theatre? Yeah, I actually used to dress like this, Claire. I used to have like a hat. You've seen the picture. You can see the picture on my profile. You can see me. That's me in theatre porters gear. If it's done by midnight, Paul, I'll be surprised too. Bumbelina, hello. Neptune returns, welcome. Hope the dog's all right. I know this is a bad time for you. I'm sorry about that. I wish I could make it a perfect time for everyone, and I can't. I appreciate the people especially if Susan Hayward Tompkins turns in, because I think it's 8 in the morning where she is. And I know it's sort of like mid-afternoon where, what's his name? He lives in Maine, USA. Sauna, can I just call you Sauna rather than your whole name? Have you seen the right on PC new statue heads, either side of the doorway to the Bodleian Library? Your thoughts? I haven't seen them yet, Sauna, but I mean, I've talked before about how annoyed I am the way cultural Marxism has taken over all these traditional institutions, and I'll come on to that in this particular live stream. Now, I was going to show you what this is about because, yeah, the old MacDonald had a farm tune. Okay, guys, I've got 31 people watching now, so I'm going to begin. I hope Iron Man Spartan's got his beer now. Has he? Oh, right. The beer is warm. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. All right. Now, I'm going to do a lead off, which will be longer than the previous ones. There's an awful lot to say about this. Okay, so it's going to be half an hour or so. Now, if you post, Hanafi Din, by the way, I'm going to talk about Brave New World as well. Now, if you post comments while I'm reading the lead off, I won't reply to those. So if you want to talk to each other, that's fine. But I won't. If you address me while I'm reading the lead off, then I won't be able to reply to you, because otherwise you just get too many. And I can't catch up with them. It's like people want to talk to me live, and I'm reading stuff they wrote half an hour ago. Well, it'd be much easier actually if YouTube allowed me to sort of freeze the chat until such time as and I can't do that, can I? No. To freeze the chat until such time as I finish the lead off, then start it again. What I'll do is after I finish the lead off, I'll go back to the top, and I won't reply to any of the comments, but I'll just simply delete the trolls. And then I'll come back to, when I get to the bottom, then I'll start answering your questions. Okay. So, welcome. Yes. Videos from the underground. Yes. Yes, it's Pete, I think, from Maine. So it's great you guys are all here. It's lovely monkey. World's greatest gardener. My daughter bought me that. Is Edwardian lady here? She's not here this evening. Never mind. Okay. So 1984. This is the well, it's the 70th anniversary. It's 70 years since the publication of the book 1984 by George Orwell. Now, I was going to show you my copy. I can't find my own copy of the book. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's just a cheap paperback. It's a cheap like recent print. But it annoys me that I couldn't find it. But what I've got this, which is the film adaptation. This is with John Hurt and Richard Burton. This is actually very good. It's who's the director? Director of photography. Yeah, it was directed by Michael Radford. And there are two film adaptations of this. There's an old one with Peter Cushing, which is quite good. They're both good, but this one is excellent. This one is really good. I do recommend it. Now, what I do have, I'll just go back to the screen so I can go back to the monitor. Right, I do have this. I've got this. Oh, Edwardian lady, hello. Sorry, you're here. Sorry, hi, Edwardian lady. But I have got this. 1984 was not supposed to be an instruction manual. That's this thing. You can see here there's CCTV cameras on it there. See, all up this thing on my T-shirt. That is yeah, Claire. That you're right. This was filmed. It was actually filmed on the dates in the setting in the book was set in 1984. They actually did the shoot on the very time Orwell specified in the book that the actual story took place. But of course, his setting wasn't exact, and obviously we don't live in the world. But I'm going to argue this evening that what the world that George Orwell predicted in more subtle ways is exactly what we have in our world. In many ways, in a more subtle way, he was absolutely right, and what he predicted was completely correct. I've got quite a few T-shirts. This is a good one actually. Now, George Orwell's 1984 was not meant to be an instruction manual. That's true. It was meant to be a warning. It was a warning from someone who was an insider to what was planned, and I'll argue that. I'll explain that as I go along. But anyway, just give you a bit of details. Now, 1984 was published. It was published in London. It was first published in London by Secker and Warburg, June 8th, 1949. So, as you know, it's actually more than a month now since the 70th anniversary. But don't give me a hard time. Belated birthday and everything. But you know what was the state I was in back then, all the coughing and spluttering and things like that. And it was published in New York by Harcourt Brace on the 13th of June 1949. So that was about a week later. Now, just under a week later. Now, interestingly, people say, well, is it 1984 in a series of words, or is it 1984 the actual numbers like this? Because this is what it is in the book, 1984 in numerals or 1984 in words. Now, when it's published in the UK, it was 1984 in words. When it's published in the United States, it was 1984 in numbers. There were two separate covers and things like that. There were two separate editions, essentially. Now, Orwell always preferred the numbers. He always preferred 1984, the numbers. But if you in the UK, it's still published 1984 in words. I don't think it matters, actually, particularly. We all know what we're talking about. But anyway, this is a futuristic novel set in the then future year of 1984. It was written in between 1947 and 1948, and Orwell went to enormous lengths to write the book quite quickly because basically he knew he was terminally ill. He had tuberculosis, and he considered this his most important work, his final and most important work. And so he went and wrote it. He actually went to an island called Jura, which is off the coast of Scotland, and basically rented a house and just stayed there and wrote the whole time. And you can visit it today, actually. It's a kind of a museum piece. You can actually go and visit it. But obviously, he started in 1947, so the Roswell incident didn't affect him. All right. But you probably didn't know about that. But anyway, the novel is set in the future in 1984, when most of the world has fallen victim to a perpetual war and an omnipresent dictatorial and an oppressive government. Or governments. Or government in singular is actually the truth. In this novel, Airstrip 1 is the name of Great Britain. It's called Airstrip 1, which is a province of the superstate of Oceania. Now, it's interesting that Orwell came up with the idea of superstates, because this wasn't actually in popular knowledge at the moment. I mean, people talk about if someone said the European Union, they say, what are you talking about? Even though by then the European Union was planned. In fact, the European Union was the plans for the European Union actually began in about 1920, but it was never really discussed in public. But Orwell did have access to information beyond the public, and this is what's very important. He knew a lot of things that were going on behind the scenes, because he was basically a member of the Fabian Society. And there's several clues. Interestingly, that he set the book. The time the book was set was 1984, and people say, why did he choose that year? Because he wanted to set up the book considerably a few decades in the future. And people said, oh, he sort of looked at the calendar one day and saw it was 1948, and he just said, just flip the 8 and the 4 around. But actually, it's also 1984 is also the centenary of the formation of the Fabian Society, the first Fabian Society. I think there were two, and there were two called the Fabian Society. They were both basically the same organization that sort of relaunched. But the first Fabian Society was launched in 1884, and he was a member of it. That's why it's important. And that's how he knew a lot of things. He had a lot of insider knowledge. Now, there's some absolute, there's the quotes. I'll just read some of the quotes. Everyone knows them. Even people who've never read the book know the famous quotes. He controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. That's a classic one, isn't it? But if thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thought. And that's very important. The concept of language I'll come back to, because one thing Orwell understood better than anyone else, and you see it in signs of this in his earlier works. I mean, his books can basically, I've read about 6 of his books. They can basically split into 2 categories, his books, autobiographical and fictional. But there's a lot of the autobiographical in the fiction. I promise you, there's an awful lot of the autobiography. Winston Smith, I think, is based on himself. He's a man of a similar age, also very ill with tuberculosis. So there's a lot of his life goes into the fiction. And what he understood better than anyone else was the battlefield of the modern world was the human mind. It is essentially the human mind. And this is actually very interesting. This is a less well-known quote, which I'm going to read to you, because it's actually paraphrased from something I heard at the Fabian Society, I think, or the Frankfurt School. Power is power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. And that's exactly what is being done to the people of the world today. Big Brother is watching you. Of course, that's a classic one, isn't it? And of course, that phrase, Big Brother is watching you, was on all the posters. There was a posters with an image of the face of Big Brother, and Big Brother is watching you. Big Brother was the leader of Oceania. And of course, that inspired the TV series, the famous TV series where they put a load of people into a house together and shut them off from the outside world, and you can watch them. And there's another one. It's a beautiful thing. The destruction of words. That's another thing, because that was a conversation that Winston was having with the editor of the Newspeak Dictionary, a man called Syme. There's a scene where he's actually having a conversation with this guy at the Ministry of Truth, and Syme is the editor of the Newspeak Dictionary. And he's saying that the latest edition of the Newspeak Dictionary has 50,000 fewer words than the last one. It's a beautiful thing, this destruction of words. In a few years, this conversation we're having now would be impossible. Natural English is what's called Old Speak, which is what Winston speaks. But Oceania has its own degenerate language called Newspeak, which is very interesting. That it's deliberately designed to make what they call thought crime impossible. So you can't even articulate them in words. You can't articulate them in your mind, and it's designed to be as simple and basic and crude as possible, this language. Remind you of anything? Yeah. Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 makes 4. If that is granted, all else follows. And that's an important one, because during the torture session, O'Brien is torturing Winston. he has to convince him that 2 + 2 = 5. And when Winston says, it is, I'll just stop the torture, he says, no, you have to really believe it. To begin with, O'Brien is just torturing. Winston's tortured for days by O'Brien. And it ends with the famous Room 101 scene with the rats. You remember that? Apparently, a viewer of the first film that came out, which is actually, I think it was serialized on TV, a lady from North Wales was watching that, and she dropped dead of a heart attack while she was watching that. Yeah. See, to begin with, in the torture scene, in the last part of the book, Winston just will say anything O'Brien wants him to stop the torture. But O'Brien has this uncanny way of knowing exactly what Winston is thinking. And he's trapped Winston. His whole, everything he did is designed to trap. It's just a very, very sophisticated way of trapping thought criminals. And he says, no, you've got to really believe it. And that's their plan. That's the plan, you see, is they're not going to kill Winston straight away. They torture him for as long as is necessary to turn him into a model citizen before they kill him. Then they release him for a while. He goes out and he's a model citizen. And he denounces his thought crime, and then they kill him. There's the very final line of the book is, he loved Big Brother. Let me just find. Now, I've got half the quote here. I want to talk about the other half. Hang on. Yeah, all right. Let's find this quote now. Now, this is, I've got half of it. I want to get the full quote. Because this is the whole. This is the whole thing. I want to give it. I got the last part of the quote. I want to actually have the whole quote here. This is where this is in the torture scene. I mean, the most famous quote, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. Is but where Winston, like I said, Winston is being tortured by. He's being tortured by O'Brien, and O'Brien says this. It says, "How does one man assert his power over another, Winston?" And Winston thought, by making him suffer. O'Brien then says, exactly, by making him suffer. Obedience is not enough. Unless he is suffering, how can you be sure that he is obeying your will and not his own? Power is in inflicting pain and humiliation. Power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Do you begin to see then what kind of world we are creating? It is the exact opposite of the stupid hedonistic utopias that the old reformers imagined. A world of fear and treachery is torment, a world of trampling and being trampled upon, a world which will grow not less but more merciless as it refines itself. Progress in our world will be progress towards more pain. The old civilizations claimed that they were founded on love and justice. Ours is founded upon hatred. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy, everything. Already we are breaking down the habits of thought which have survived from before the revolution. We've cut the links between child and parent. Think about what I'm saying now, because I'm going to come back to it. Or a friend any longer. But in the future, there will be no wives and no friends. Children will be taken from their mothers at birth, as one takes eggs from a hen. The sex instinct will be eradicated. Procreation will be an annual formality, like the renewal of a ration card. We shall abolish the orgasm. Our neurologists are at work upon it now. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to towards the party. There will be no love except the love of Big Brother. There will be no laughter except the laugh of triumph over a defeated enemy. There will be no art, no literature, no science. When we are omnipotent, we shall have no more need of science. There will be no distinction between beauty and ugliness. There will be no curiosity, no enjoyment of the process of life. All competing pleasures will be destroyed. But always, do not forget this, Winston, always there will be the intoxication of power, constantly increasing. and constantly growing subtler. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. How much of that sounds like the world we live in? I mean, especially the thing talking about children and parents and things like that, and sex. Isn't that exactly what we're talking? What the world is like? That's what I mean when I say Orwell. We may say, oh, in 1984, the teacher might have told me, well, that's not the world we live in. The book is totally different, because I remember asking him about this, but it is not. It's a more subtle form. What Orwell has done is essentially distill the ideas and put them into a more extreme form. But it is the world we live in. Now, Oceania is ruled by the INGSOC party. That's the English Socialist Party. The leader, Big Brother, enjoys a cult of personality. Orwell actually based him on Joseph Stalin, just like he based Napoleon the pig in Animal Farm. The central character is Winston Smith. He's a member of the Outer Party, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. On the surface, he's diligent, he's skillful, he's loyal, but secretly, he's a thought criminal. He harbours dreams of rebellion against Big Brother. And he's completely private, although he finds a quiet place he can write a diary where the telescreen can't see him. I'll explain what that is in a minute. In the end, his rebellion breaks out because he enters a forbidden relationship with Julia, who's another official at the Ministry of Truth. Now, there's a lot of other words that have come into the English language, into our world through this book. Big Brother, I've just mentioned, is doublethink. Now, doublethink, or black-white, means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting them both. And there's many examples of this you can think of, such as I can't even think of one right now. I'm sure one will come to me. Let me know if you can. Thought crime, of course, is newspeak. This is the degenerate language that is spoken, which has a smaller vocabulary as possible. It's designed to be as simple and crude as possible. It doesn't only make creative writing impossible. It makes creative thought impossible, because our language is the basis of thought. The internal dialogue, which everyone, or at least people who are not NPCs and psychopaths, have, is essential to thought. I mean, they just try to remove words for no reason. If they remove the word bad and they replace it with ungood, someone actually put in the comments, double plus good, but double plus just means very. If you say plus, it means it does away with things like very extremely. Double plus means even more. Ungood means bad. So you just put in the contradictory prefix, which would be un, as in words like uncomfortable, etc. And you just apply that to everything. So ungood is bad, and things like that. And it was also after the book came out that the term Orwellian was popularized as an adjective, because it wasn't really used before then, even though Orwell was a successful writer at the time. But this is all about all the kinds of things like abuse of power, secret surveillance, misleading terminology, manipulation, and authoritarianism. That's all referred to as Orwellian. As I said, Orwell wrote this book on Jura in his house he rented between 1947 and 1948. It was on the 4th of December 1948 he sent the final manuscript to the publisher. It was published on the 8th of June, and by the end of 1989 it had been translated into 65 languages. That's more than any other novel in English since then. That's pretty good, isn't it? Interestingly, the book is actually going to be in the public domain next year, because it'll be 70 years after the author's death. And yes, indeed, the author died shortly after the book was published. Now, Oceania is just one of 3 superstates. These are continental and intercontinental superstates. And indeed, Winston learns all about the history of the book because he comes across this book called The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein, a character who's loosely based on Leon Trotsky, just like Snowball in Animal Farm. There's a lot of crossovers between the two of them. And it talks about how after the World War II, there was another war involving limited nuclear warfare, which ended up with the English Socialist Party coming to power, and it came power in the entire in the UK and the entire British Commonwealth. So that would be, there's a map actually. Oceania is huge. It covers all of the Americas, Southern Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and Iceland, and the North Pole, and the British Isles. All of that is Oceania. It's huge. And you may think that's too big. Well, you know, look what's happening. The European Union is designed to expand into Africa. It's already, the European Union is already covering Algeria, because Algeria is part of France. But there's talk about expanding it into Turkey. Turkey's in Asia. Turkey's not, well, there's a little corner of it in Europe, but Turkey's not a European country. Yet they're talking about expanding the EU into Turkey. Interestingly, there's two other superstates. There's Eurasia, which covers all of what's at the time was the Soviet Union and continental Europe. And this Eurasia is established under what's called neo-Bolshevism. And that there's a third superstate called East Asia, which actually covers a lot of what we now call China and Japan. And East Asia is actually is ruled by an ideology translated from Chinese as death worship, or the obliteration of the self. But what it turns out is that INGSOC, the English socialists, neo-Bolshevism of Eurasia, and death worship of China, that is the East Asia, or obliteration of the self, are all the same thing. These superstates all have the same ideology, yet they're continuously at war with each other. And these wars just are interchangeable. There's a swathe of unconquered territory over what is today North Africa and the Middle East, which these three superstates are continuously battling over, and it never ends. Another classic line, which I didn't include, a classic quote, which I've just remembered. War is not designed to be won or lost, but designed to be continuous. And that's kind of almost what George W. Bush said about the war on terror, didn't he? There's no real objective to this war. There could never be a mission accomplished moment. We never know when it'll be over. It was something like that. In fact, it's also one of the characters, Julia, Winston's lover. She says that these steamers, these rockets that Eurasia are constantly firing on London, which is like the Blitz, these are a false flag operation, and basically it's they're firing it themselves. It's a false flag, like 9/11, and this was written long before 9/11. This was written in 1947-48. Oh yeah. So right, there are cameras everywhere, so the Big Brother's always watching you, and the phrase "Big Brother is watching you." And there's many kinds of electronic devices that do that, and one of them is what's called the telescreen. Now, a telescreen is a device which functions both as a television set and a camera. So you watch what's on it. It essentially provides the programs, and it's always like propaganda films. That's all they show. There's military parades, public executions of thought criminals, things like that. The whole of the telescreen agenda, the telescreen program, all the programs are these things. The entire schedule of these things, but it has a camera on it, which means it can watch you as well. And interestingly, one of the things it does is you have to go through morning calisthenics like you do in military training. And Winston is actually scolded by the TV presenter in one of the scenes. The TV presenter says, "Winston Smith, you're not bending low enough on your when you touch your toes," or something like that. Now, the funny thing is the telescreen now exists. Now, what's interesting is, even though the outer party, that's the middle class, which is 13% of the population, they have telescreens. And I think that telescreens is you can't switch them off. They have no off button. They're on continuously, even at night. And you can't switch them off. Winston is part of the outer party, which is how he got a job at the Ministry of Truth. And he has found a little corner in his flat. He lives in this moldy little flat. Everything is filthy, everything's dirty, it's broken, it's rubble. It's probably based on Orwell's observations of the Blitz, the aftermath of the Blitz. But everything's inefficient. I mean, you remember him saying a window gets broken. His neighbour, Mr. Parsons, I remember, Mr. Parsons gets arrested later on as a thought criminal. But his wife complains, oh, this window got broken. I've applied for a new one to the Ministry of Windows or something. It takes them a whole year to come and fix it. So there's this very dysfunctional bureaucracy, which is what you often find in socialist states. And again, I think that's something that Orwell was satirizing, just as he was with Animal Farm. But it's more complicated than a lot of people think, actually, because it's he would describe himself as a socialist. He would describe himself as a leftist, and there was a lot of internal conflict within the left, even worse than today. I'll go into that in a minute. But anyway, it is a satire of socialism, but it's also a satire probably of the particular brand of socialism that he didn't like. He thought it could be made to work. I think he was wrong there, but he believed it could be made to work. And the socialism we had now was not real socialism, as Stefan Molyneux was always satirizing. Can you still see me all right? Just double check the camera frame. I'll just check the frame again. Yeah, I'm fine. Good. Let's go back again. So the telescreens exist, like I was saying. Now, firstly, even though he's very poor and he lives in this moldy apartment, the telescreen is huge. It's a massive one, much bigger than any of the televisions that were around at the time. If any of you were old enough to remember, TVs used to be like little boxes about that big, and they were black and white. Most people didn't have them. The telescreens of 1984 are in colour, and they're huge. They cover an entire wall almost. They're 6 foot square. Well, you can get TVs like that now, can't you? I've been into people's houses. They've got these big flat screen TVs on their wall. And also, another thing is, there are now smart TVs, which if you ever see that Vault 7 stuff from WikiLeaks, they claim this is actually happening. The CIA is actually able to actually monitor what people are doing. They have cameras on them, and the CIA monitors people while they're watching TV. Not only that, even when the TV's switched off, it can still record you. So if you have a smart TV and you want a private conversation, for goodness sake, don't just switch it off, unplug it. But you can't unplug the telescreen in 1984. It's built into the wall. Now, as I mentioned, the outer party makes up 13% of the whole population of Airstrip 1, or Oceania maybe generally. The upper class, the inner party, of which O'Brien is a member, they are the elite rulers. They make up 2% of the population. That includes Big Brother and all his comrades. Now, the 85% of the population are what's known as the proles. The proles are the uneducated working class, and ironically, they actually are the freest people in the entire world, because the INGSOC doesn't believe they're capable of anything. The INGSOC believes they're just basically a surplus population to work. But Winston actually goes into the prole areas. He goes to a pub and he speaks with people, and he couldn't believe it, because one of the weird things about Oceania is you're forced to use metric measurements. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. Do you remember when the EU was forcing us all? You know, they were fining shopkeepers who still did things in pounds and ounces. Well, that happens in this. But the thing is, when he goes to the prole areas, they still use the old imperial measurements. He goes into a pub and he says, "Can I have a litre of beer?" And it says, "Litre, mate? I'll just do pints here." And he gets talking to this old man who's played by Wilfred Bramble in the first movie, and they talk about old times. A lot of Winston's thought crime actually comes from his memory, and it's rather like that moment in that episode of the X-Files where the old Indian, the Red Indian's talking about how the pale face believes in history, but the red man believes in memory. We trust memory. History lies, but memory never lies. It's that moment. Do you remember that moment in that wonderful episode of? I refer to it in one of my live talks. I can't remember the details, but it's a bit like that. Winston has memories of nursery rhymes from his childhood and things like that. This is where he gets his thought crime from memory. This is why they're trying to erase memory. And he actually works in the Ministry of Truth. One of the things it does is it changes the past. It doesn't just produce propaganda for the present. It changes history. He goes through all the archives, all the history books, and they change things. I'll tell you about it more in a minute. That brings us on to the ministries of Oceania. The government of Oceania is very simple. There are 4 ministries which are actually arranged in a series of pyramids. These are the only real, very impressive buildings left in London. All the others have been destroyed. And where am I now? Hang on. They all they're 900 feet tall. They're huge, so they're taller than the Shard today. I think, how tall is the Shard? I don't know. It's about, I think it's 900 feet is how tall these pyramids. They say 300 meters. I always convert metric measurements, by the way, for that reason, because I think it was 1984. If you listen to Hapanway Radio, you'll notice in my space weather reports, everything is in imperial measurements. But you have this example of like Newspeak in the very names of the ministries. It's hilarious. The Ministry of Peace supports the perpetual war, the one that's not meant to be won or lost, but to be continuous. The thing is, these countries are always warring against each other. At the time, East Asia, at the beginning of the book, East Asia is an ally of Oceania, and they're both fighting East Asia. But then suddenly it changes. East Asia becomes the enemy, and Eurasia are our allies. Yet nobody notices, even though the two names are fairly similar. People just accept it. They accept it, which is what I mean by the control of the mind. It's like when Bill Gates stands up and says, he makes that comment about vaccine and population. It just goes over everyone's head, and they just sit there. It doesn't register. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. Eurasia are allies. It's like that. So we see, again, this is Orwell. So the Ministry of Peace arranges perpetual war. And you can see the doublethink and newspeak in the very names of the ministries. The Ministry of Plenty is about the control of food, goods, and domestic production, which means that people are given basically just enough to get by. I mean, again, Ministry of Plenty, it's the opposite. Just reverse the meaning. And it publishes false claims about having raised the standard of living all the time. But it's always reducing rations. It's always trying to make people live on as little as possible. And there's mass famine, actually, in the country, everywhere. The Ministry of Truth, which is where Winston, actually where he lives, that controls information. So news, entertainment, education. They have novel writing machines. So they have machines that write books. Indeed, there's recently been an invention where, believe it or not, where there's been an invention where there's a machine now can write a basic plot in a book. And there's this prole feed. They have this thing called prole feed. If you want to know what prole feed is, it's the entertainment for the uneducated masses. If you want to know what prole feed is, just read a copy of The Sun or just switch on ITV. That's prole feed. Just watch some of the programs there. Now, one of the things that Winston does is like his job is to he works in the records department of the Ministry of Truth as an editor. He revises historical records. So he makes some people. He removes certain people. They're called unpersons. So anyone removed from history is called an unperson. These are people who've been vaporized. How they call them? Not just killed, but removed from existence. And the thought police are based at Ministry of Truth, and they continuously monitor people through the telescreens. So Winston creates fake news stories. For example, he invents a war hero called Ogilvy, who and he muses actually when he's written all these news articles about this war hero, and it goes out there. He suddenly realized that this man is now a part of history. He will be regarded as real in historical terms as Julius Caesar or Charlemagne. The thing is, he's a complete fabrication. Winston invented him. Winston made him up. And what happens is when the new editions are created of, say, history books or newspaper archives and things like that, all the original documents are destroyed. They're burnt in the memory hole. They go down the memory hole. Now, the final ministry is the Ministry of Truth. No, sorry, the Ministry of Love. The Ministry of Love. And can you guess what that's about? That is it's a prison and torture chamber and execution chamber where it arrests people who are thought criminals, whether real or imagined. If they don't need any real reason, they just take you in. They lock you in jail. You're tortured until you become a model citizen. Then they kill you. Then they let you out for a bit to denounce your thought criminals, and then they kill you. And the torture chamber, the final stage of the torture is Room 101. Again, that was a TV show. Room 101 we use for things we really don't like. And This is where you have your own tailor-made horror, because they know everything about you, because O'Brien knows everything about Winston. Throughout the entire course of the story, O'Brien has been monitoring Winston. The whole idea, I'm sorry, these are spoilers here, but the whole purpose of the book, the whole story as it comes out at the end, is that Winston's thought crimes are in his head. As I said, he just thinks these things. But the purpose of O'Brien, his job, is to smoke these people out who have thought crimes by pretending to be on their side, pretending to be a part of this brotherhood, this rebellion against Big Brother. These people who are set up by Emmanuel Goldstein, the Trotsky-like character, a former comrade of Big Brother who then betrayed him. And so that they can then identify these people who are having these thought criminals, who, even if they don't say anything, because at some point they're going to break cover. O'Brien will be there pretending to be their friend, and he finds out everything about him. He's been monitored for the entire course of the book. So when he gets to room 101, they know his worst nightmare is rats. Winston is terrified of rats. Of course, rats are everywhere in the world because it's such a shithole. And so they use this. He says, "Oh, this was an execution method in Imperial China. They stick your head in a cage full of hungry rats, and the rats basically eat you alive from the head." And of course, this is the ultimate horror for Winston. And that was the time when Mrs. Jones in North Wales dropped dead of a heart attack when she was watching that bit in the movie, and I think it was the 1950s one with Peter Cushing. So there's all kinds of other things. Like, it turns out that Parsons, his next door neighbor, he's a thought criminal too. He actually meets Parsons in jail. Was that just in the movie or was it in the book? I can't remember. But anyway, O'Brien offers Winston the chance to join the Brotherhood, this insurgency. He swears allegiance to it, and that's when he gets the book, The Theory of the Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein, which is just known as the book. Now, Emmanuel Goldstein, this is kind of like, he's rather like the Osama bin Laden of the early 2000s. If you remember, Osama bin Laden, it was reported in February 2002 that bin Laden had died. He died of late-stage kidney failure. He was actually very sick when 9/11 happened. The Egyptian newspaper wrote an obituary to bin Laden. However, of course, bin Laden was kept alive as a mythological boogeyman. And it seems that Emmanuel Goldstein is this enemy of the people. You have these, I think all oppressive regimes need these figures of hate. And in fact, there's this thing called Hate Week, where they actually have rituals over hating Goldstein. And it's very, very vivid in the movie, where they scream his name with fear, and they throw their shoes at this telescreen, which is showing Goldstein speaking. And that's called the 2 minutes of hate. And they have that every week. They have that every day, I think. The workers begin their shifts with 2 minutes of hate. It's hatred of Goldstein. But I mean, it turns out, and this is discussed in the book, that Goldstein could easily be as real as Ogilvy, just an imaginary figure. And as bin Laden was for nearly the entire time after 9/11. He was an imaginary figure because he was a dead man. Of course, he wasn't imaginary in the sense that he never lived, but he died. But they kept him alive until that time when there was that cock and bull story about them tracking him down to the house in Pakistan and throwing his body in the sea, if you remember that. Bin Laden died long before that happened. Then, of course, it ends. It's not a happy ending. I mean, Orwell doesn't really do happy endings. I think he was quite a pessimistic character. He's turned into a model citizen after all this torture, and the last scene of torture is where these rats are about to be released so they can tear at his face. And O'Brien says to him, "Is there anyone else you'd like us to do this to instead? What about Julia?" And he says, "Yes, do it to Julia." And this is the thing, this is the worst thing, because he's portraying the woman he loves. But he's been tortured so badly, and he's just lost his humanity. And see, George Orwell witnessed this because there was torture in the Spanish Civil War by both sides. If you ever read Homage to Catalonia, it talks about some of his experiences in the Spanish Civil War. But I think he witnessed some of this torture. I think he did. And that's how they know that they can do. You can do this to people. You can turn people. You can completely almost demolish their personality through torture. Oh yeah, the enemy of the state. That's it. Goldstein, the symbolic enemy of the state. I like that. Yeah. And of course, the along with the ministries, the names of the ministries on these beautiful 900-foot pyramids above London, is you have the slogan, the official motto of Oceania, and it is the ultimate in Newspeak. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And it's this. There's all kinds of things. It's interesting. Like you get like the living standards. Like I said, there's disease, there's poverty, there's filth everywhere. I mean, there's this scene where they talk about the proles' babies being eaten by rats. I mean, this is where this theme of rats comes in. There's complete social decay. The outer party live. They have everyone has these horrible foods. Like Orwell describes the foods that he eats at the Ministry of Truth. And it's like gristle, it's blocks of soy, and of course we all know about soy these days, don't we? It's just empty calories. There's no nutrition to it. And they're allowed alcoholic drink. There's this very, very cheap drink called Victory Gin. Now it's interesting that this may be a satire of the Soviet Union, because Orwell was originally, he started off as a Stalinist communist, and then he changed his position and he became a democratic socialist. But of course, this is what the Soviet Union was very often like. A lot of dissidents, if you ever read Solzhenitsyn and people like that, they talk about the grime and the dirt and the rubbish and the ruins everywhere. War, ruins from the war that were never repaired, electricity not working, things like that, water being cut off, the window not being repaired and things like that, because it's all got to go through bureaucracy. And also the poor quality food. And in Russia, it was the vodka, of course. They had cheap vodka. You could buy a bottle of vodka for less than the price of a pear. People used to queue for hours to get fruit and veg. You buy a bottle of vodka everywhere. And it's like alcohol is one of the ways they do it. And it's interesting about Orwell is that I've read, like I said, a number of his books, and he has such a interesting style. He doesn't use flowery language. He doesn't waffle out all kinds of creative, poetic phrases. I mean, every word he puts in his books can be found in a dictionary in a school designed for 15-year-olds. Yet he's so, with these crude tools, he can really shape the most incredible imagery. And it's incredibly poignant, so poignant. It's unbelievable sometimes. I mean, the Down and Out book, I don't often cry when I read books. It doesn't often bring tears to my eyes. Films do, but not often books. But the Down and Out book, Down and Out in Paris and London did. So did The Road to Wigan Pier. The description of the people and the mines and going down the mines and things like that, and the life of the miners is astonishing. It's astonishingly... It's astonishingly passionate. And the tramps in Down and Out, the life of the tramps, sleeping in the workhouses, and the state, he describes the state of the bodies of the tramp when they're lying out for a shower. These people have skin diseases. It's awful. And the proles, the life of he describes the proles. It is very much like the low level entertainment of the modern world. They're sedated with alcohol, pornography. Of course, pornography is everywhere now. It's not just the self-purpose pornography you get online, but it's in TV adverts. It's everywhere. Oh, and they have a national lottery, but the winnings are never paid out. But everyone always forks out a lot of money for national lottery tickets. Yeah, but the proles are still freer. Like I said, they're not expected to obey all the rules that the outer party are expected to obey. So they are given more latitude. There's this scene where this woman she's this sort of old, overweight woman just hanging out the washing. She's singing an old song, and Winston is incredibly moved just to hear her singing a song. And the proles don't have telescreens; they're lucky. But Winston looks at her and he looks at this old lady, and he says, "The future belongs to the proles." Now, I would have compare this with Animal Farm. There are some similarities. Animal Farm is the older book. It's an older book which was written, I think, 1941 that came out, and it was essentially an allegory. It's about a farm where the animals take over and they drive the humans out. But little by little, the pigs on the farm take over the role of humans. And eventually, at the end, there's the final scene that the pigs are having a big party with the humans, and they're all getting drunk and they're stuffing their faces, and the other animals looking at them and says, you can't tell which one's which. They're both the same. Animal Farm also has its own version of Newspeak, and it's doublethink. And again, this was written more than a decade. It's written a decade, or slightly about a decade, before 1984. And it is that there's this charter in Animal Farm, and it's gradually corrupted, and it ends with the pigs end up by. It starts with all animals are equal. No animal shall drink alcohol. No animal shall sleep in a bed. No animal will walk on 2 feet. And it eventually changes. All animals are. No animal will drink alcohol. It says to excess in brackets. No animal will sleep in a bed brackets unless they don't feel like sleeping in the barn. No animal will wear clothes because these are human things unless they're feeling a bit cold. And then it was no animal shall walk on 2 legs unless their front feet are a bit sore. And the all animals are equal thing is the most interesting as all. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. That's an example of doublethink. And it's a perfect to hold 2 contradictory beliefs and believe them. And I think we see this in things such as feminism, where they say men and women are now equal, but women are more equal than men, and things like that. That's an example of doublethink. Oh yeah, I mean, I knew I'd come up with some examples. It's like the idea that Sargon of Akkad can make he made a silly joke about an MP, and it was a silly joke, and the media went nuts about it. But Diane Abbott can say, let's not play the game that white people play, and that's ignored. And they're both. You see, it's like I say. You see, the white people do one thing, black people do another. It's exactly the same. But when white people do it, it's bad. When black people do it, it's a shrug of the shoulders. That's an example of doublethink. Now, there's an interesting character in Animal Farm, and this comes back to what Cosmic Claire was saying. There's a raven called Moses. Now, he only appears a couple of times. I'll just look up his. I should have got the notes for this. Sorry. By the way, if you're posting quotes now, if you're posting comments, I might not be able to read them all. But here we are. Because I've read Animal Farm too, and I do like Animal Farm. There's Animal Farm has there's a lot of allegorical situations with the Bolshevik Revolution. For example, there's Napoleon, who's a Berkshire boar. Now he's an allegory of Joseph Stalin, and he's the leader of the pigs. But there's another pig called Snowball, who used to be a comrade of Napoleon's, and they helped overthrow the farms and kick out Farmer Jones. But he's then denounced, and he has to flee the farm. And there's always this rumor that he's living nearby. Oh, he's on Pilkington's farm, and he comes in the night, and everything that goes wrong in the farm is thought to be Snowball's deliberate sabotage. So if a drain pipe breaks, if the drain pipe breaks because of frost or because of someone kicks a stone against it, oh no, that was Snowball. So Snowball is like the Leon Trotsky character. And there is. I'll tell you about Boxer in a minute, because that's really sad. But there's there's a raven called Moses. That's it. I was coming back to that. This is a raven who's a spy and a talebearer, but a clever talker. And Mr. Jones was very fond of him. He's a wild raven, but the Farmer Jones used to feed him. But what's interesting, he regales Animal Farm's denizens with tales of a wondrous place beyond the clouds called the Sugar Candy Mountain, that happy country where we poor animals shall rest forever from our labours. And this, of course, it's all essentially portraying the religion. Now, this is true because the church did play that kind of role in the Soviet Union. The black raven of the priestcraft, promising pie in the sky when you die. and faithfully serving whoever happens to be in power. This is a common criticism of religion, and Orwell was in favour of that. And indeed, the church was tolerated in that way, because Stalin did revive the Russian Orthodox Church after it was deposed. It was deposed after, when exiled after the Bolshevik Revolution, but Stalin re-established the Russian Orthodox Church. But there's an element of that. It's not an original idea what Orwell comes up with regarding Moses. And it's very much like what I call MBA, Materialist Bravery Award. And I've done lots of videos about that. And Moses is essentially this MBA character, which indicates that George Orwell was an MBAer. And I think if I remember correctly, this was his argument with C.S. Lewis that Claire was talking about. Now, Boxer. Let's go on to Boxer. This is, again, as I said, Orwell is, despite the simplicity of his language, he can really tear your heartstrings. And the story of Boxer is incredibly sad. Boxer is a horse. He's actually a Shire horse, and he's dedicated. He's loyal. He's very strong. He's hardworking. I mean, they build a windmill at one point, and Boxer is the hardest worker. He does most of the toughest jobs on the farm. But he's very loyal, but he's naive. He's very gullible, and his catchphrase is "Napoleon is always right," meaning the leader, the Stalin character. And he works so hard that his strength could be used to attack the dogs. Now the dogs on the farm are used. Napoleon uses them to keep people in line. They're like the police, you know. But he won't. The dogs bully him, even though he's so much bigger. And the pigs actually work him to death. What happens is Boxer is working so hard on the windmill that he collapses, and the pigs arrange for Boxer to be taken away. Now Napoleon and the other pigs tell all the animals Boxer's going to be fine. We just sent him to the hospital. He's gone to the vet. He's gone to the vets, basically. We sent him to the hospital, and so this van appears. This vehicle appears. And they put Boxer in the back of the vehicle, and the vehicle pulls away. But it says on the side of the vehicle, "horse slaughterers." So what the pigs have actually done is they've sold. The pigs sell Boxer to the knacker's yard, and he's never seen again. And the good characters like the sheepdog, they're saying to, what's the name of the sheepdog? I can't remember. But anyway, she's saying, "Boxer, you got to get out of there. They're going to kill you." And Boxer tries. He tries to kick his way out of the van, but he can't. And it turns out that Napoleon wanted to buy himself another case of whiskey. So the money that he gets from the knacker's yard for Boxer, he uses to buy himself another case of whiskey, because Napoleon's an alcoholic. And the worst thing is, there's the vehicle that's being used to take Boxer away is not a motor. It's not a motor vehicle. It's a horse-drawn cart. Now, I often wonder, why did Orwell do that? Why did Orwell choose to have a horse-drawn vehicle? Because this book was written through sort of around the time of 1940, when there were lorries and cars on the roads. You know, horse-drawn vehicles were less well used. If he'd written the book 50 years earlier, I'd have said, yeah, it'd probably be a horse-drawn vehicle. But he wrote it in 1940, around about then, published 1941. The reason is he wanted to show the other two horses what they were doing. And indeed, the animals, they yell, the good animals, they yell at the horses, because there's a human driver of the vehicle, of course, but the horses are pulling it, these two horses. And they yell at him, because these horses are driving a vehicle that's going to take another horse away to be slaughtered. And they yell, "Horses, comrades, don't take your brother to his death." But the horses keep on obeying orders. The human is sitting there with his whip, and he goes, "Go on." And the horses are clopping along quite happily, obeying orders. "Just doing my job, mate. Just doing my job." And that's why Orwell deliberately made the horse-drawn vehicle for that reason. Because, you know, to say this idea of just doing our job, it's not for us to reason why, but to do or die, etc., is what causes all this destruction. Most of the actual hands-on brutality in the world, in terms of state structural violence, is done by people just doing their job. Big Brother doesn't do all these things. Napoleon doesn't go out and drag horses off to their deaths. Gets other people to do it. And the excuse is, "Oh, I'm just doing my job." Shrug shoulders, you know, being professional. And that made me cry. I mean, I did cry my eyes out when I read that. Poor old Boxer. the loyalist pig and the loyalist horse collapses from overexhaustion for serving the state, which then the state then kills him and sells the body for money. All right. Now there's an interesting idea here, and this is what a lot of people. Orwell has his fans and his critics on both the left and the right. Not many of them realise that Orwell was essentially a leftist, but he was a very unusual one. And indeed, I think if he'd lived a bit longer, he would probably have abandoned the left altogether. Apparently, he admired Hitler, of course. A lot of these left-wing critics say, "Oh, Orwell admired Hitler. Orwell loved Hitler." Thing is, everyone was in the 1930s before the war. Everyone was saying how wonderful Hitler was. Winston Churchill said how wonderful he was. You know, the Daily Mail was. Winston Churchill said, "Oh, he was one of the world's greatest statesmen," and so it was completely mainstream to say that Adolf Hitler was wonderful. And indeed, people say, "Oh, Oswald Mosley was a supporter of Hitler," and things like that. Half the country was a bloody supporter of Hitler in the back then. You got to read. This is what I mean by this was a memory hole example, isn't it? Because that all went down the memory hole. We fought the war, won the war, and suddenly everyone who says Hitler's good is an evil, racist, Nazi pig fucker from hell. You see what I mean? Yet that idea was completely mainstream just 2 decades earlier. Okay. Now, if you read Homage to Catalonia, it's very interesting. It doesn't actually go into much of Orwell's feelings and thoughts about what he does. It's more just his experiences. But he takes the Republican side in the Spanish Civil War. Whether that was the right or wrong thing to do, I don't know. I mean, it's a hard call, that one. But in conventional thought, he did the right thing in terms of the mainstream. There's a big memorial to the people in Oxford who fought in the Spanish Civil War for the Republican side. No one cares about the ones who fought for the nationalists. They're considered evil Nazis, you know. But Orwell took up arms for the Republicans. What happens is that he's in Barcelona on a bit of R&R. And what happened with the Spanish Civil War, it's very complicated because the Republican side then split and the second war broke out between different factions of the Republican side. He suddenly finds there's shooting going on in Barcelona and he has to flee. He has to get his family out and he has to basically sneak out the city. And he's really scared at one point. He feels very vulnerable. He's unarmed. He's sort of tiptoeing and crouching through the streets of Barcelona. There's gunfire and fires breaking out everywhere. The reason is because basically the Stalinist and Trotskyist elements started attacking each other. And I think you see this influence, of course, in Animal Farm and 1984. The Snowball and the Goldstein type characters based on Leon Trotsky. And so, because Orwell was part of something called the POUM, P-O-U-M, which is Spanish for, it basically means the Party of Marxist Unity in Spanish. But it was a democratic leftist Trotskyite faction. But then they start fighting against the Stalinist faction. And you see this, honestly, man, it's hilarious. It's not funny. There's nothing funny about the Spanish Civil War, but it was rather like the scene in Monty Python, The Life of Brian, where the Judean People's Front engages in battles against the People's Front of Judea and the People's Popular Front of Judea. And there's this kind of like sectarianism within the left. And you see it today with things such as the Atheism Plus scene. I've talked about this in my Skeptic video, the Atheism Plus versus the Sargonites in the atheism scene, and the TERFs versus the TERFs, the trans-exclusionary radical feminists versus the intersectional feminists, the trans supporters and people like that. So now we're going to talk briefly about Brave New World. I told you this would be a long lead off. I was trying to find where the bloody notes. Hang on, where's the bloody notes? So I didn't get these notes. Hang on, Brave New World comparisons. Right, it's an interesting thing. I don't know. I think I mentioned this before. It's not really a kind of gotcha wow thing anymore. But George Orwell went to Eton College. He had an elite education at Eton, and one of his teachers was Aldous Huxley, the famous man who wrote Brave New World. Now, they're very interesting. This was an earlier book from 1932. Interestingly, I'd love to. It's amazing how to think that these two men met each other and knew each other, albeit Huxley was an adult and Orwell was a child. But it is fascinating to think what kind of conversations, private conversations after class they might have had. If you just imagine what it would be like to be a fly on the wall when Huxley and Orwell were talking to each other. Huxley was educating the teenage Orwell at Eton College. But 1932, Brave New World, an amazing book, which is a prediction. Both of these are predictions of society dominated by central government. Both are based on extensions of trends of their times. Yeah, in terms of Orwell, it was political. In terms of Huxley, it was technological. And it's interesting that Huxley in 1932 predicted a lot of what we today call genetic engineering, stem cells, and things like that, and test tube babies. He predicted a lot of this sort of thing. And the difference is the ruling class of 1984 used brute force and torture and mind control to keep victims in line, whilst the rulers of Brave New World keep their citizens in line by addictive drugs and pleasurable distractions. It is true. There's this thing called Soma, which they take in Brave New World. And they continuously having casual sex. I mean, no one ever gets married. No one ever has a partnership. No one falls in love. But they're just continuously having with casual sex with whoever they like. They use the word pneumatic because they worship Henry Ford in Brave New World, and the pneumatic tire. And they just, if someone's pneumatic, in other words, sexually desirable, they say, oh, they get engaged, which just means they have a one-night stand. Now, the thing is, though, it is Brave New World has a lot in common. What you have in Brave New World is you have this savage, this guy, who again, he's like the prole. He's the free man who comes into this world, and he can't bear it. The savage. They call him John. They give him the name John because he doesn't have a name. He's a savage. He lives on what they call the Savage Reservation, which is like a bit like the Indian reservations in North America, where they're allowed to live simple lives without technology. So he's basically living a kind of medieval life. And the citizens of the Brave New World state, for them it's sort of entertainment. They go and they watch the savages. They take trips into the savage countries, a bit like backpacking, or hiking. They watch the savages with amusement. But what happens is one of these. John is the son of a woman who's part of the Brave New World Society, who gets trapped inside the savage reservation, and he ends up back when she eventually escapes and goes back to the real world, the so-called real world. She's very relieved, but he can't fit in. John cannot survive in that world, and it's very sad. Sorry about the spoilers, but he tries to go and live in a lighthouse by the sea. But he's surrounded by news reporters continuously, and in the end, in the final scene, he commits suicide. There's more. They have more in common than is. I'm just reading the Wikipedia page here. There's far more in common here between Brave New World and Orwell. It's 1984 than it says here. Both use mind control in the sense that Brave New World is a world controlled by mind control. It's called a utopian novel, but Brave New World is actually a dystopian novel. And indeed, the John character is basically a person from the outside. He's put in there so that we get the view of the person from the outside seeing this world. I mean, everyone's genetically engineered. Everyone is classified according to. Everyone is bred to do certain jobs. There's the alphas who are like super genius, supermen, and then there's the epsilons who are like morons who live to 20 years old and they just sweep the floors and things like that. It's a very interesting thing, and of course, both books have inspired interesting things such as The Children of Men, Handmaid's Tale, The Virtual Light. These are all kind of like dystopian things, and so Brave New World is highly dystopian. Now, I'm going for an hour and a quarter. I haven't finished yet. Was George Orwell murdered? Now, this is a very interesting article here by someone called. Name is Margot Metroland. Now, what happened was George Orwell actually worked for the intelligence services. I mean, as I said, he was a member of the Fabian Society. 1984 was essentially his warning of what was to come. But there's this. Now, George Orwell, real name Eric Blair. I mean, he called himself George after the king. This is an interesting thing. His real name was Eric Blair. No relation to Tony, apparently. But he lived in he lived in what's the name of that place? Oh God, Great Yarmouth. Bloody hell! I was sorry, I was having an X-ray portering moment there. He lived in Great Yarmouth. Syria. He lived in Great Yarmouth, which is of course on the River Orwell, and so he decided to call his pen name. He chose the name Orwell as his surname, and he called himself George after the king. It was King George at the time. He supposedly died at the age of 46, quietly and suddenly, of a lung hemorrhage on the night of the 21st of January 1950. This was only a short time after, only a few months after 1984 was published, at the University College Hospital, London. But actually, it didn't go like that. One way or another, Orwell was murdered. Now, what's interesting was, he, the very least, there was foul play in as much as he was permitted to die a lingering death, because he suffocated, he choked to death after this hemorrhage in his respiratory tract. But it doesn't make sense, according to this author, Margot Metroland, it doesn't make sense, because apart from those pre-midnight hours of January 21st, 1950, Orwell had been getting round-the-clock care with nurses and orderlies always in attendance. Orderlies, I mean, I don't know if that means the same as porters. It doesn't in those days. There were porters, but the nurse's station was a short distance down the hall. He had a private room. He was a private patient. He didn't do this on the NHS. But on this particular night, the attendants all stayed away and let Orwell, or made Orwell, die. He'd been at the UCH for 4 months, and he was the hospital's celebrity patient. Visitors to his sickbed included David Astor, the novelist and school friend, Anthony Powell, Malcolm Muggeridge, who's a lot of these people you may not name. They used to be quite famous. Malcolm Muggeridge, actually, I remember he was quite popular in the 80s because he was quite old. He lived quite a long time. But he was like the most famous writer in the world. He was one of the most famous living writers. And, of course, he did have a lot of interest. People concerned for his health. Now, I didn't know this. Before I read this article, I didn't know this. But because I assumed he just died, because I know he was consumptive. As I said, just like Winston, he was consumptive. He was going to die. He knew he didn't have long to live, which is why he was in such a hurry to write 1984, get it done. And what's more, he just got married. He was all right. He got married. He was now married to a younger woman called Sonia Brownell, who was actually a journalist, who was the only person he allowed near her. So near him while he was writing 1984. She went to Jura to interview him, and they eventually became friends and fell in love and got married. Now, it's true, he was weak, he was frail, but he was recovering at the time he died. In fact, they found that there was a couple of pieces of things left around his bedside. Now, one of those things in his locker was an airline ticket from London Airport, today called Heathrow Airport, to Zurich, dated January the 25th, just 4 days later. And he also had some fishing tackle. Someone had dropped off some fishing tackle in his room. The reason is, he and Sonia were going to go to Switzerland, to the sanatorium there, but also he planned to take a fishing holiday. So he's well enough to go out and go fishing. So he was recovering. He knew he was recovering. So he booked an airline ticket for him and his wife, and he made sure he had fishing tackle because he was going to go out there. He was going to go to Switzerland with his wife, and so he wasn't really on death's door at that moment. He probably would have died within the next couple of years naturally, of natural causes, from his tuberculosis. But he could have, this is what this Metroland woman is saying. On the night of the 21st, right, this is the night he died, the night, right, Sonia went to the pub with her friends. She had her friend Anne Dunn and Lucian Freud, who were a couple. And they went to the pub. And she went back later in the day and found out that her husband was dead. He died sometime just before midnight. It's just a little too convenient, because he did have enemies. And the enemies were very much, according to Miss Metroland, were very much from an internal leftist conflict. So this would be like the TERFs bumping off a trans woman in today's terms. Now, he'd been naming names for anti-Stalinist propaganda section because, you see, he actually collaborated with Clement Attlee's government at the Foreign Office because they were concerned about spies, and they were right to, because, of course, they had the Cambridge spies and things like that. And George Orwell joined this a propaganda office at the Foreign Office, a propaganda outfit, which was called the Information Research Department. Very Orwellian, that. I'm sure he had a good chuckle at that name. But anyway, they were hoping to. What they did was they approached several kind of moderate leftists in order to fight back against what they call the communist infiltration. You might say, well, George Orwell was a communist. He wouldn't have done that, but he was more like a. I mean, the author calls it a crypto-communist, a fellow traveler. He was what today you call like a Trotskyist. So he'd be like there's all kinds of Trotskyist splinter group, the Socialist Workers' Party, the militant tendency, and people like that. Do you remember the militant tendency? The people who almost took over the Labour Party in the early 80s. He'd be one of those people. If he lived today, he'd be a supporter of the militant tendency. So they of course are very much opposed to the Soviet Union. They were very anti-Russian. They were kind of Euro-communist type anti-Soviet leftists. And indeed, this of course, Leon Trotsky was killed in 1940. He was murdered by the KGB. They tracked him down to his hideout in Mexico and put an ice pick through his head. So they recruited Orwell, it seemed. They recruited Orwell to this particular project. It was actually not unlike the Red Scare, the McCarthyism in the United States, this sort of thing. It was more moderate. But Orwell took the decision to collaborate, if you call it that. I mean, it's hard to know whether that's right or wrong. I mean, I would probably have disagreed with both Orwell and his enemies, but on that particular point. But he mentioned certain people, for instance, Paul Robeson, who was a singer. Paul Robeson, black guy with a very deep voice. He was very popular in Wales because he was a great singer. He loved Wales, and he was singing with Welsh male voice choirs. But he was I don't think he was really a threat because he was quite openly a communist. He was a member of the Communist Party of the United States of America. But he also mentioned Charlie Chaplin. I don't know about that. But anyway, what happened was he made a lot of enemies doing this from the pro-Soviet Stalinist side of the left. And one of Orwell's last visitors, one of the last people that came to see him, he actually came to see him on the evening of the 21st January, was a man who Orwell nicknamed Granny. They nicknamed him Granny, the man. But his name was Andrew S.F. Gow. Now, he was a classics tutor at Eton. So he was a colleague of Aldous Huxley, who had also taught Orwell at Eton College. Now, Granny Gow, he suddenly turns up. Now, as far as I know, in January 1950, he suddenly decides to pay Orwell a visit in hospital. This is odd because Gow really had nothing to do with Orwell. Orwell didn't stay in touch with Gow when he left school. He didn't like Gow actually much, I don't think. But Gow had been a tutor at Cambridge. Now, Cambridge, Trinity College is where, of course, the spies were, weren't they? The Cambridge spies. But Orwell did send Gow a copy of Animal Farm in 1946, but that's probably just to gloat him and say, look how successful I am. To be honest, I did that to one of my old teachers. I sent them a copy of Evans Land, my first novel, because my teachers hated me and thought I was stupid. And I said, look, I've written a book. So I understand why he did that completely. But apparently they had not met since 1927. So what the hell was, in 1950, did his teacher suddenly decide to drop in and pay Orwell a visit. Now, the explanation was he was at UCH to see a Trinity man who happened to hear that Blair, that's Orwell, was there too. Gow could not remember the name of the Trinity man and was probably making an excuse. According to several espionage historians, at least one very prominent art critic was Anthony Blunt. Now, Gow was believed to be a Soviet spy. Now, Anthony Blunt was a close friend of his. And of course, Anthony Blunt in 1979 was exposed as the fourth man in the Cambridge spy ring. So it's quite likely Gow was a Soviet spy. And therefore, Orwell was an enemy. So this Gow turned up he turned up, where was it? It's suspicious now that it looks like it wasn't just a coincidence. He noted the room location and discovered that his quarry was planning to move to Switzerland for a short time. And so it was necessary to dispose of Orwell as soon as possible. And he says, if we reject this explanation, we are left with the official received version, a dubious tale with nothing to recommend it. We are asked to believe that Gow's visit was purely happenstance, completely unconnected to his role as a spy master. Orwell hemorrhaged and died, just like that, right there in his hospital bed, with his new fishing rod just beside him. And not a single nurse or doctor even bothered to check up on their most famous patient. Yeah, very. And obviously, there must have been some collaboration with the hospital authorities, something I wouldn't put past them. And I know how corrupt the bloody hospitals are. Right. So I'll just go through some comments. These are the comments posted on the notice for this live stream. Vrillon Aura said, "Hi Vrillon, Big Brother is watching. So is Brigade 77. Double plus good. What's Brigade 77? I Macy said, wouldn't be pathetic if I said first. Oh well, first. Everyone says that. Steve 71 evening. Neptune Return said 32nd. Hey, that's slow, Neptune. Usually 5th or 6th. Israel Diego Rivera Eugenio Lucentius Genius says, Britain has become a dictatorship of the British Bigfoot. No, he doesn't. Britain has become a Zionist dictatorship. Zionist Boris wants to suppress Parliament. The BBC's run for the interests of Israel. Now Zionist Boris and Trump will take us to war with Iran. No. That's something I'm going to cover in a future video. I'm going to do a live stream about the new Prime Minister. Maybe we can talk about it then, Israel. Okay. Proselytizing Orthodox Pentecostal trans rabbit says, oopsie. So let's come on to your live questions. Now I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to just get rid of the trolls and things like that. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. Sorry about that. You'll have to, if you left me any questions, I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat them because there's just too many. But I'll greet people if I see them. Green Sky, hello. Where are we else? Stephen, Homeless Truth Seeker, hello. If I see any trolls, I'll just have to delete those. Where are we? There we go. There's I got rid of one troll. Where's another? Won't be a sec, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Tiberius Kirk. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. If I read all these comments, I'll be here till 3 in the morning. Sorry, guys. Who else? James Tilly Matthews, greetings. Right, so thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. We got 48 people watching, which is cool. We have Mel O'Brien saying, Viva la Quinta Brigada mi arse. What does that mean, Mel? I don't know. Hello, greetings, Mr. Nephilim Jones, says James T. Matthews. Hello. The Tyranny of Words. Have you read that? I've not read The Tyranny of Words, no, but is it is it an Orwellian type book? That lead off was almost an hour and a half, blimey. I knew it would be a long one. I knew it would be really long. Time for some dragon juice. Yeah, it's streaming, proselytizing Orthodox Pentecostal trans rabbit. I love your name. Can I call you? What did I call you before? Rabbit, I think I called you. Oh, the Republicans in Spain were scum. Right, you are. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Orwell doesn't write about this in Homage, but I've read other stories from other people about the using nuns as sex slaves and things like that. From what I hear, they were far more brutal than the Francoists. I mean, it's of course, it's all today. We only hear it's all very one-sided today. Because the Republicans were left-wing, they were good, and because Franco was right-wing, he was bad, etc., etc. Oh, thank you, Rabbit. I like you too. Diego Rivera. Both sides are controlled in a civil war. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the point of Orwell and his. Maybe I don't know if he realised this when it came to the Homage to Catalonia, but you know, maybe he realised this. Hello, Pippa. Hi, Pippa. Check out Pippa King's work on. I knew you'd be. I had a feeling you'd be here, Pippa, because you know about the Orwellian stuff, don't you? On electronics. Check out Pippa King's work. Then nothing as it seems. Careful, Ben. And then try something vegetarian. That's the name. It says. Shout out for universal peace, world peace. Otherwise, yes, indeed. Mel O'Brien, my father fought for Franco. Did he? Oh, right. Well, Mel, is there a memorial to him in your town at all? And his people? I doubt it. Diego Rivera, it was a rehearsal for World War II. Yeah, it was kind of, Diego Rivera was kind of like a proxy war, a bit like the Vietnam War, where the sides didn't want to confront each other. But basically, we had the Marxist and quasi-Marxist left, that is the Soviet Union and the West, Europe and Britain, etc., fighting against the nationalists, the fascists. I mean, the word fascist, as Nick Holliston said, it's really just a word. It's a word which is pretty meaningless nowadays. It just means a political movement from the early 20th century, which was countering basically the Marxist takeover. Franco worked for the British, did he? Oh, right. Hi, Lisa. Hello, how are you? My father was a commie and fought for the Irish Brigade. All right, so he was in the Spanish Civil War too. I say I don't really know what the rights and wrongs of the whole thing are. I just know that it's not as simple as it's been portrayed. It's been portrayed as Republicans good, nationalists bad, and of course I know it's not that simple. I know that. I'm not saying that I would have gone and picked up a gun and fought for Franco. I'm not saying I would have done that. I'm not saying that would have been a good way to stop the New World Order. All I know is that it's not as black and white as it's been portrayed. Lisa, how are you? I think you're dressing Pippa there, aren't you? Sorry. The commies and anarchists are now called Democrats. Yeah, Mel. Oh. It's funny, the Democrats is maybe a piece of newspeak when you say democracy is a good one. What is democracy? Democracy is the right to put on to put a cross on a piece of paper every few years and choose your government's public relations officer, or maybe not choose them in the case of with things like Brexit. You don't even get that. But democracy is considered the ideal form of government. But as I said in this, how do I put it? Let me just find the actual words because I put it so well in this thing. Hang on. I always have to read it out because I can never say it as well as I did in this particular article, her Panway voice. Yes, it's a perennial question. In a world where we can supposedly choose our rulers, why do we never end up with rulers we actually like? Democracy is one of the most evocative words in the English language. It is loaded down like no other with emotional, cultural and political baggage. Wars have been fought over democracy, which have cost the lives of millions. Some people will start weeping at the very mention of the word. The quest for democracy has produced some of the most dramatic tales in history, from the Chartists to the suffragettes to Mandela. We're told that democracy is the ideal form of government, the end goal of historical politics. Yet most democratic countries, even very old democracies, are suffering from a malaise. Democratic governments have a major credibility problem in their relationship with their citizens. Some political leaders even have approval ratings in single figures. Cynicism is endemic and the electoral turnout is low. Citizens will more often find themselves voting for negative reasons instead of positive. They'll vote in order to keep someone they don't like out of office rather than to elect someone they do like. Democratic countries today are ruled by some of the most loathsome people imaginable. They are almost all cruel, stupid, selfish, weak, cowardly, corrupt, and amoral. And despite the fact that we can nominally choose our leaders, these kinds of people always rise to the top and no one seems to know why, let alone how to stop them. I thought that was that's a good way of putting it, I think. Yeah, the Irish Brigade fought for Franco. I see, right, I'm going back a bit. Richard Dimbleby, in his film on Franco, admits the British put Franco into power. All right, I've not seen that, Diego Rivera. Rabbit says, what do you think about the tendency of Looney Tunes conspiracy nuts, such as yourself, to generally be radically anti-Semitic? Well, if you want to rephrase that, you want to rephrase that more politely. You think I'm going to answer you? What do I think the tendency? What Looney Tunes conspiracy nuts? That's a wonderful intellectual start to what you want to say, eh? Give me a reason why I shouldn't delete you for being a troll. Now, the tendency to be what? To be radically anti-Semitic? Watch my film Jews, idiot. Watch that. You're talking crap. Bloody, what a foolish thing. What a stupid, insulting thing to say. Watch my film Jews. I mean, and then tell me how anti-Semitic this whole situation is. This is the nonsense that got David Icke banned from Australia. This is these idiots. Did you see that thing on Al Jazeera about the Labour Party and about they got someone they captured someone on film from the bloody Israeli embassy, telling these people how they can brand anyone they don't like, including Jeremy Corbyn and all these other people, as anti-Semites. We had Ken Livingstone be called a Nazi. I'm not a fan of Ken Livingstone, but he's not a bloody Nazi. Oh God, what a stupid comment that was. Right, yeah. So so the Irish, Mel O'Brien says the Irish Brigade fought for Franco. The International Irish Brigade fought for the commies. All right, I see, Mel. But of course, which one was your dad in? Was it the Irish Brigade? Either way, people from all over the world went to Spain to take part, as these were like, what was it? The Joel Francis, you know, the Miners Against Fascism author. He says, if I can shoot rabbits, I can shoot fascists. He fought for a Welsh International Brigade for the Republicans. But people travelled there deliberately to take part in the war. Villanova, not sure democracy exists these days. Well, it does, Villan. That's the problem. Democracy equals blame and money laundering, says James. Yeah, there's got to be something better. There has to be something better than this. Let me go back a bit. Just flick to the bottom. There has to be an improvement to what we have now. It really does. Look, you see, I mean, in fact, it's really great because the Brexit situation has totally exposed the fraud of democracy, hasn't it? Why are we not out of the EU? Why, you know, you look at, just watch my Brexit videos. It says it all. It's good because people now understand what's wrong with. Mel O'Brien says, yeah, we've bled enough to fill an ocean, says Phuket. Yes, that's right. Mel O'Brien, the Irish Brigade, 728 men, the Commie International for 250. Oh, right. But Mel, I mean, there was a guy, I think there was a video about that. Yes. Where was it? I've got to find it because it was very interesting. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Gallic Neo-Reactionary is the channel. And the video is called, here we go. Spain and, let me have a look. Spain and, what was it called? I can't remember what it was bloody called. Yeah, it was called The Last of the Blue Shirts. It's actually a radio show, but it's very, just Google Last of the Blue Shirts on YouTube. There we go. Diego Rivera. Orwell blames Zionist Jews. He's now been seen as anti-Semitic. Look, everyone and his dog is anti-Semitic these days, Diego Rivera. When did Orwell blame Zionist Jews? Perhaps you could point me in that direction. As I said, he admired Adolf Hitler. So did everyone in the 20s and 30s. I mean, you have to come up with a. Could you give me a citation on that, please? Neptune returns. Fela Kuti says democracy is a demonstration of craze. That's right. I mean, and of course, democracy is in a sense, it's the ultimate in the Brave New World situation. It's the ultimate Soma, isn't it? But what they're doing is they're just making sure everyone is an epsilon and a delta, one of the less intelligent kind of. You notice how they are dumbing us down they're doing it in many, many different ways, through electronics on our brain, through various kind of breeding techniques, through the use of drugs and things like that to dumb us down, and also education and things like that. But of course, when everyone's an epsilon, they're just going to, the epsilons in Brave New World. People say we have choice. Well, the epsilons are doing all the choosing, and they can't hardly count the fingers on their hands. That's what they want. As George Carlin said, you got a pencil, you're in. That's why they're dumbing us down, because democracy is a very, very dangerous thing when you're dealing with a population that is stupid. Oh yeah. I mean, Brexit is really, really, really. It's really been education, hasn't it? It's been one of the best things that's happened ever. Lisa says, but if we are the ocean, we can create the wave. That's true. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping, Lisa. Right, Rabbit, keep a civil tongue in your head. I'm removing your comment there. One more like that, and I'm banning you. Yeah, Mel, in this thing, the blue shirts, most of the Irish Brigade were IRA. Yeah, they did. There's a big crossover with the blue shirts and the IRA. That's right. James Lee Mac, democracy or theatre? Vote Parks for a smooth Brexit. I'll tell you what, Simon Parks ever wants to run for the council in my area, he's got my vote. Aliens unite. Try something vegetarian. A plutocracy. US is a plutocracy because the president takes running for president takes money. Yeah, I wonder if the true democracy is possible. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if like a functional democracy is possible. It may well be. I think among an educated population, which is not beset by this new world order kind of mind control, yes. But that's a hypothetical situation, unfortunately, right now. You're right about the president needing a lot of money. I mean, the only reason Trump, there's many reasons why Trump won, and as I explained before, Trump winning was an absolute, really knocked them off their horse, the New World Order. It really, really did. But because he is wealthy and he had the ability, he had the resources to do this. Lisa, I'm sorry about Rabbit. I'll get rid of, if Rabbit speaks to you like that again, he's out. All right. We're chill, Ben. Okay. JJDA, I'm glad I made you lol. Rabbit. Ken Livingstone is an anti-Semitic, though. So is Corbyn. No, they're not. Look, please, everyone, just watch that Al Jazeera documentary. You see, and this nonsense about Ken Livingstone. I'm not going to go through bloody Ken Livingstone. I've written an entire article on Ken Livingstone. The whole thing is ridiculous. Ken Livingstone. Oh, bloody hell! I'm going to have to now, won't I? There we go. I've written an article called "Is Ken Livingstone a Nazi?" Now, this was ridiculous, absolutely absurd. What happened was he stuck up for Naz Shah. Now, Naz Shah suggested that there could be a Jewish homeland in North America. That's what she suggested. For that reason, all the people who supported her against George Galloway, all the neocons turned against her. I mean, I must say I was glad when Naz Shah beat George Galloway, because Galloway I've got mixed feelings about, and I didn't like the way he fought a very dirty personal campaign against her. So it's quite good to get rid of him. But anyway, what happened was, where are we now? Yeah, this was on the Daily Politics show. Ken Livingstone, he made a point. He said that he was quoting an academic. It was actually a Marxist intellectual called Lenny Brenner, who actually reported that Adolf Hitler had approached the Sanhedrin of Judaism and tried to arrange the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Central Asia, in northwestern China. It's a book called Zionism in the Age of Dictators. Following the Balfour Declaration of 1926, they approached Adolf Hitler and the Jews, trying to negotiate the emigration of German Jews to Palestine. No, sorry, not to Central Asia. You're right, to Palestine. I don't know if that's correct or not, but the point is that Ken Livingstone is saying that to oppose Israel is not the same thing as hating Jews. And he says, after that, there was a well-orchestrated campaign by the Israel lobby to smear anyone who criticizes Israeli policy as anti-Semitic. 4 words: Jeremy Corbyn, David Icke. And David Icke's not in the Labour Party, just banned from Australia. But this is exactly what... But anyway, this idiot called John Mann started calling him a Nazi apologist and stuff like that. And it's just, he just shouts on... He was on the TV screen during a so-called debate. And he just shouts at him. And then from that moment onwards, Ken Livingstone's been branded a Nazi. All right, where are we? No, he's not. So, Rabbit, shut up. You're wearing my patience thin, Rabbit. Behave yourself. I warn you. Right. Going back up again. We've got 56 people watching. That's good. I've got a feeling this video is going to get it's going to get algorithmed because of what we're talking about now. But Mel O'Brien, most Jews in Israel are not Semitic, they're Caucasians. The Aryan Brotherhood won't like that. Right, I wouldn't like to know that. Right, I guess Hugo Roon is not here because he hasn't said anything. But yes, Semitic. Hugo Roon, if he turns up, will tell you all about this. Semitic it's like the word Celtic. It's misused. It refers to a group of languages, not to a race, not to a culture, not to a religion. Semitic people include everyone who speaks a Semitic language. This includes everyone who speaks Arabic, everyone in Ethiopia who speaks Amharic, and people in Israel who speak colloquial Hebrew or Aramaic, which still survives. These are all, so the word, so again, it's a misuse of the word, yeah. And Jews are not a racial group. Jews come from all kind of racial backgrounds. Jews across the world, of course. It's a culture. It's a religious group. Of all kinds. Again, it's very diverse as well. Diego Rivera, do you agree with Boris Johnson that he should act as dictator and ignore Parliament over Brexit? I don't think he can do that. Now, that is the problem. Is that's a tricky one because Parliament is obviously completely useless and indeed has been corrupted to the point where it's rather like a gangrenous leg on the state at the moment. But the idea of dissolving Parliament, it's a very risky move. I mean, it was done in 1975 in Australia, where the Governor General dismissed the Prime Minister, Gough Whitlam, and caused the Australian constitutional crisis. I don't think he'll get away with it because only the Queen can dissolve Parliament, and I don't know if this has been done before. Actually, besides, I don't think he will do that because I've got a feeling Boris. I'll say more about this on the new Prime Minister video. I'll probably do a live stream about the new Prime Minister when it finally happens. God, it's taking so long, isn't it? It's the opinion polls seem to predict a landslide win for Boris. If it's not Boris, then the Tories are finished, and we'll probably have Corbyn as Prime Minister. If it's Jeremy Hunt, I've got to be careful how I say that, then he's saying, oh, we might be out by Christmas. Boris Johnson at the moment is saying, we are going to be out by Halloween, definitely, without fail. And of course, Theresa May said that, didn't she? But can we trust Boris Johnson? I'm not sure. And Boris Johnson might also lure some people back from the Brexit party, which could be worrying. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I really don't. Try something vegetarian said. Russiagate is just a cover-up electronic voting fraud gate. Test the technology has been made fair. Electronic voting an impossibility. Do not accept people that were supposedly electronically elected. Oh no, absolutely not. In fact, do you remember in Peterborough, all the postal votes were Labour? Do you remember? All the postal votes just happened to be Labour. And of course, Labour still only won by a few hundred votes. But everyone thought, all the opinion polls said Brexit would win that. The Brexit party would win. When the next general election comes, especially if it's before Brexit, which may happen. In fact, it's one of the tricks they could use, and I'll cover that in the future. We got to really watch out for this electoral fraud. We really do, because they're going to really push it. They really will. James Tilly Matthews. I know it's out of fashion these days, but hey, worth a try. What's that? Flares? Diego Rivera. Corbyn is not anti-Semitic. No, he's not. Exactly. Lisa says, hate will get us nowhere. We'll just take the bait. Have to get clever. Yeah, I know. It's true, Lisa. 69 Phuket. Hello. We're spiritual beings. We are. Nothing as it seems, says the MFers are the real issue here. Yeah. EU, SSR. Yeah. Israel is anti-Semitic. Well, you could say that Israel is against Jews. Yes, Israeli Diego Rivera, because it's used and exploited Jews, actually. It really has very badly. And David Icke has made this point. There's a guy, Ilan Pappé. Ilan Pappé, the guy who wrote the Wandering Jew book that Ian R. Crane talks about. He was interviewed in the Al Jazeera documentary. What he has to say is incredibly interesting about that. 69 Phuket. Should be meditating. Oh, no, you meditate afterwards. James T. Matthews, does this mean I have to stop reading Edward? No, you don't. No, you don't. You can read whatever you like. Phuket, evil has corrupted our precious human life. Yeah. Reminds you of Dr. Strangelove. Our precious bodily fluids. Rabbit says, democracy doesn't guarantee the best government. It guarantees you can get rid of a bad government without having to take up arms. Why haven't you worked that out yet? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I mean, look, as I just said, Rabbit, if that was the case, we wouldn't have these scumbags ruling us. You know, people who want to do well would be able to make it into power, into office, and they can't. That means there's something wrong with it. There's some kind of fraud involved. Vegetarian says, better not mention BDS. Oh, right. Well, I think this is going to be algorithmed anyway. So vegetarian, I think we've already gone out of our depth. We might well swim a little further. Yes, did you see the article I wrote about Simone Burns, the BDS solicitor? She apparently committed suicide. And there's been several weird suicides and deaths lately. Definitely really weird. Democracy, says JDA. Yeah. Boycott companies that must be boycotted for the future. All right. Right. Mel O'Brien. My father left as soon as his term of service ended. He was distinguished by all. He was an air raid warden in Dagenham in World War II. General O'Duffy was the leader of the Blue Shirts and hated by the men. All right. The Blue Shirts video, the last of the Blue Shirts. I don't remember. It was quite a while ago. I watched it, but I listened to it. It was very interesting. It talked about that. We learned to be slaves, says Fouquet. Yeah, we're like the Epsilons. That's it. Vrillon says Nazis everywhere, apparently, according to the BBC. Yeah, well, you get called a Nazi for almost any reason now. It's like you get called you get called a Nazi for saying white people aren't evil. You get called a Nazi for being, for questioning feminism. Dr. Jordan Peterson is a Nazi, apparently. I'm a Nazi. I'm not joking. A guy called Tristan Swale has essentially called me that. You rebelled, Lisa. Good. God save her majesty, says James. The Kev Brigade. So there are many sources that think the following people are world famous: crypto Jews, Trump, Putin, Macron, Angela Merkel, Bill Gates, and anyone who can disprove me. Crypto Jews aren't famous. Crypto Jews, I don't know what that means. Crypto Jews. Trump, Putin, Macron, Angela Merkel, Bill Gates. They're of course famous. They're all absolute rats except for one of them, the first one. JJDF. Voting made a difference. They wouldn't let us do it. That's right. Mel O'Brien. I have his Irish Brigade document signed by O'Duffy and Generalissimo Franco with a big flourishing singer. Hey, Mel, that's obviously keep that safe because it's probably something that might want to go down the memory hole. But that's a very important document historically. Could be valuable. Really could be. You may have to sell it in Russia or get it valued or put it into a museum in Russia. It might be the only way to keep it safe. Vrillon, 90% of people are more bothered about Love Island. That's Prol Feed. That is Prol Feed. It's very ironic that one of the biggest example of Prol Feed is the program called Big Brother. I was out at a pub with someone one night where we actually went out for a Chinese meal in the end, and she left halfway through the meal. She said, I want to go home and watch Big Brother. And I'm like, holy hell. And this woman's like a theatre nurse. She's not stupid. She qualified as a theatre nurse. And she wants to go back and watch Big Brother. Bloody hell. Lisa, without faith, we might as well just give up. I will never do that. Lisa, I've had to try and hang on to my faith. I really have. Diego Rivera, the introduction of soon-to-be-released version of George Orwell's Private Diaries. Really? I see. Right. The late polemicist Christopher Hitchens, I'm familiar with him. I've read lots of his books. Grapples with the author's marked dislike of Jews. Really? Because I read Christopher Hitchens' Why Orwell Matters, which is a good book, and he doesn't mention the Jews there. So why is he? Is it now? Now, the thing is, Christopher Hitchens, not to be confused with Peter Hitchens, his brother, who I think is very good. I like him. Christopher Hitchens is dead. He died in 2014. I wrote a little obituary to him on a Panorama Voice. So, I'll be interested to see that. I really would. I hope there's evidence there. David Schultz, hello. Greetings, Ben. The film 1984 was Richard Burton's last film before his passing. That's right. Also, late John Hurt plays Winston Smith in the film. He does. That's right. It's a great movie. It's a really great movie, David. And John Hurt is, interestingly, there's a picture of the Winston Smith character there, and there's the telescreen with Big Brother's face on it behind. There he is with the telescreen, and he went on to play the Big Brother type character in that fantastic film V for Vendetta. How are we now? James Tilly Matthew. God said, I don't have to believe in her this time round. That's all right then. He's got a her. That's, yeah, so your goddess. She doesn't have to believe in the goddess. That's it. Mel O'Brien. Brexit on Halloween. Trick or treat? Trick. Definitely a trick. I will believe it when it's. It'll be fun to cover this. I mean, honestly, the whole Brexit thing has been such good fun. I mean, honestly, the government can't. There's no way this can end well for the government, as I've said in my videos. The very worst thing that could possibly have happened from their point of view. I mean, sorry, for the very best. The only way out for them would have been to immediately trigger Article 50 after the 2016 referendum, smoothly take us out. That's the only way they could have won, and they didn't do it, so they've lost. If they actually really stop Brexit, it'll be far better than if they even let it happen, I think. But if they let it happen, that's good. If they stop it, that's good. Whatever happens, however this ends, it's going to be good for us and bad for them. Vegetarian. George Orwell quotes, yes, in times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. If we do not act, we are acted upon. Yeah, that's not from 1984, but he did say that. That's right. JJ says, Brexit, in or out, we're fooked. No, we're not fooked. We are. We are not. It's the opposite. The government is fooked. Whatever happens in or out. Tina Silva. Hi, Tina. How are you? America is not a democracy. It's a republic. Okay. Well, either way, it's not ideal, but hopefully it's going to get better. I would vote Parks, says Villanora, if you could introduce me to some of those cat lady alien girls. I know the mantids are the ones I think are the best one. JJ, America's a landmass. Oh, all right, be pedantic, JJ. James, Brexit, I'll just put the tip in. I mean, I've got to put a bet on it, actually. I should put Claire Ray Randall is always talking about putting bets on things. It's good positive energy. And she's won a couple of bets, haven't you, Claire? Oh, wait. Vegetarian. So my nose is itching again. It always happens when I'm talking. Synthetic telepathy reality, Malik Payton, 1974. All right. Oh, what's happened? It's gone to the bottom again. Here we go again. Right to the back we go. Oh, there's a lot of comments. We've got 56 people watching. Right, where were we? Yes. Lisa. So question, essentially following the political world will never work. We have to work clever together again. I think Lisa, I do follow the political world, but I think you have to be able to think outside the political box, basically. And we've talked about this on your Cry Freedom shows. Lisa does a regular, or not regular, but she does like shows for her Panama Radio, which I publish and do little commentaries on. Yeah, so we have to think outside the box, definitely. I wouldn't be apolitical. I don't believe being apolitical is a good thing, but being outside the box. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to break a rule. Sod it. It's now 8 p.m. I'm nowhere near finished. I got some of this. I'm going to break a rule and I'm going to have a drink. Yeah, I normally only do this like when I'm not doing live streams. But anyway, cheers, guys. Cheers. Right. So yeah, I mean, vote BJ says blowjob at least. 60. That's Bill Clinton you're talking about there. Yeah, Lisa, it's a game. Yeah, but we can play the rules. Tina says people have to know what Semitic means. Yes, before they can be anti-Semitic. Exactly. Yeah. Excuse me. Hugo Rune hasn't turned up, but he knows all about this sort of thing. It's like Celtic. Like I said, people misuse the word Celtic. I mean, I'm a Welsh person. I'm described as... You'll get people who are saying we're Celts. This is a Celtic nation. Scotland and Ireland are called the Celtic nations. Truth of the matter is, Celtic means a culture, actually a culture that no longer exists. It's an extinct culture, which was from Europe in the immediate prehistoric era, before the rise of the Roman Empire. And I'm not going to have a Boudica moment, don't worry. The reason these countries are called Celtic is because their language is spoken there, which are descended from the Celts language, or languages. That's why they're called Celtic. Racially, the people, all of us in a sense, have Celtic ancestry in racial terms. There was a legacy of the Celts, which was actually a TV show I saw once, which indicates how the original Celtic culture influenced Europe and the modern world. But yeah, Semitic, it's a bad word. Semitic, anti-Semitic, yeah. I'll just put T-tip in. Oh, very funny, James. Very, very droll. Nothing says guilty of trimming the albums for the sake of the orange almond. I don't know what that means. Wake up before it's too late, my friend, says nothing. The angry punk in my angst-risen soul is enjoying Brexit. Yes, 69 Phuket, me too. There is a part of me that sometimes I bite my nails and feel nervous, but it's great fun. It really is. It's wonderful. It is absolutely fantastic what's happening. And to see those idiots, those morons, those gutless little suited gophers in Parliament scurrying about like disturbed ants. It's wonderful. It's a real sign the New World Order's in trouble. Basically, they don't know how to handle it because the Illuminati can't tell them. Yeah, it is. Phuket, it's already delivering anarchy. Anarchy in the UK. I played that song by the Sex Pistols actually on the show I did after the Brexit, after the 2016 referendum. Rabbit. Yes, and Ken Livingstone was wrong. It ignores the facts that Jews had no choice but to do whatever Hitler said. Right, well, it's Rabbit. I'm glad you're actually engaging in intellectual conversation on this, because that Tom Mann guy, all he did was just shout at Livingstone and call him names. If Ken Livingstone is wrong, then it's good to explain to him why he's wrong about Hitler and Palestine and what Lenny Brenner says. And so that is so much more productive than simply labeling him a Nazi and telling him to shut up. I mean, he was expelled from the Labour Party a second time, of course. Cosmic Claire said there was a transfer agreement where German Jews went to Palestine from 1934. Right, Claire, so that's what Brenner was saying. And Livingstone was saying that too. It's either true or false. If it's true, fine, Livingstone's right. He's not a Nazi. If it's false, he's made a mistake. He's still not a Nazi. This paranoia over Nazis and anti-Semitism is just it's so damn destructive. I mean, it's affected me. It's got David Icke banned from Australia. It's the Labour Party's in disarray. And don't get me wrong, I don't like the Labour Party, and if they fail, good. But I don't believe. I mean, Corbyn. I'm not a fan of Corbyn, especially in the last recent. I had a grudging respect for him until a few months ago. Now he's proved himself to be nothing but a. I thought he was a misguided, sincere person. Now he's as opportunist and deceitful as the rest of them. So I don't got no sympathy for them, but I do think we should play fair, and they shouldn't be accused of things they haven't done. It's hard to be an anarchist after a curry, James, is it? No, I don't know. I'm an anarchist all the time, and I do eat curry, so it can't be that hard. Lisa, labellism is the true divide and the conquer of our times. Yes, Lisa, that is all part of Newspeak, isn't it? Orwell, giving people names, putting particular labels on people. Run, rabbit, run, says JJ. Oh, that was that song from that awful film, was it Get Out? Oh, God. Did you see my review of that? What a terrible movie. What a bloody terrible movie. Diego Rivera. Israel collaborated with the Nazis. Facts. Yeah. Mob rule, David Schultz. Yes, it is, David. It's freedom. 51% of the most stupid people in the country telling everyone else what to do is not freedom. There has to be something better than democracy. We need linguistic internet braille system, Lisa. They have that, I think, don't they? Vegetarian, never again. World war, imperialism, global government, eco-fascism, state solution for world war plans, totalitarianism, the Pope. But yeah, that's the new world order, isn't it? Where are we? The Queen should bloody dissolve Parliament. Vrillon, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's a very, very risky thing to do. But to me, it'd be such good fun if it happens. It'd be hilarious. It would be absolutely hilarious. It really would. I mean, I've watched you watched the documentary about the dismissal scandal in Australia. It's so funny. It really is. And I'm not scared about anything that might happen in the future. What scares me is the present. The present continuing. That's the only thing I'm scared about. Whatever the future holds, I'm ready for it. Bring it on. James says, we know so we can feel our way through a conversation like Edward Heath in primary school. God, yeah. Oh, Edward Heath, yeah. We warned everyone about him, didn't we? David Icke said, warned him. Now it's in the mainstream. Is anyone apologizing to us? Is anyone thanking us? No. Same with Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm not going to go into Jeffrey Epstein tonight. I've done a Panamo Voice article all about that. I'll cover it another time when there's more developments. Vrillon, I bet Comrade Corbyn gets in. He may well, Vrillon. If Jeremy Hunt becomes Prime Minister, he definitely will, because Hunt will destroy the Tories. I mean, this is why I think they may well choose. The polls favour Johnson. I think they may well. I mean, obviously, the polls aren't always right with these sort of things, but I think they may realise they're going to have Johnson, otherwise they're finished. They'll finish below the Greens. They'll lose all their seats. They'll finish below the Greens if Hunt is Prime Minister, because Hunt is just basically a Theresa May with a penis, basically. So they're going to have someone new. They're going to have someone a little bit more charismatic and a little bit more dynamic than Jeremy Hunt. And so I think the only thing that can save us from Corbyn is Johnson. Not a very nice situation, is it? There was real power in them beards, says Phuket. Nothing seems. Love Jews and Shin Zion. Don't know what that Shin Zion means. Vrillon, they did rig the vote in Peterborough, I think. Yes. Lisa, the only person you can trust is yourself. Perhaps not even that. Well, some people can't. But, Lisa, I hope there are other people I can trust. I don't want to live in a world where I can only trust myself. It's very lonely. Why do you always talk about Chaz and Dave? Vrillon, what happened to your postal vote? Did you have a postal vote? Why is everyone talking about Chaz and Dave? Oh, you've got beer. Phuket, that's good. Vegetarian. I'm in Holland, but that's interesting to hear about Labour. Yeah, congratulations on the World Cup. You got beat, didn't you? I'm sorry about that. I'm actually half Dutch. My mother's a Dutch woman from Nijmegen. But anyway, it's my brother's actually just gone off on holidays. I won't tell you where he's gone, but he's gone away on holiday, and he says it's been he's going to actually be away a couple of weeks, and he says it's such fun to watch British news with a bit of foreign detachment. Mel O'Brien, they're talking about leaving Halloween. Oh God, yeah. They're talking about leaving Halloween and renegotiation, but the EU doesn't reconvene until November. Mix. Victoria Derbyshire said Jeremy Cunt. So it's usually men who say that. Oh, Victoria Derbyshire is a nasty little feminist. I won't say it. She's exactly the kind of person the BBC would put on a show every damn morning. Her entire repertoire is about insulting white men, basically. But I have to agree with her about Jeremy, you know who. Nothing that seems. What is the language of the Hopi? That's the Hopi Indians. Oh, it's full of all kinds of ancient stuff. I remember that. Yeah. James, I wouldn't trust me as far as I can throw me. Do you remember that song? What is it called? Don't let me get me. I'm a hazard to myself. It's a good song actually. And I can't remember who made it, who actually composed it or sung it, but it's a great song. Don't let me get me. JJ Lisa always types sense. Listen to her show on her Panway Radio, the Cry Freedom Show. She's been doing that since we were on Critical Mass Radio together. 69 Phuket. We should be sitting on a mat, getting our minds in harmony with each other. Well, maybe we'll have had a few more of these. Right, what we got here? Something vegetarian. All major religions are associated with paedophilia, incest, wars, and torture. Yep. Religion is therefore an abomination. Pedo, incest, Bible, pedo, incest, Quran. Yes, precisely. I think the one, as I said when I made a video talking about Panodrama and Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson's just been jailed again, which I think is a travesty. I don't think he deserves to go to jail. And he makes some good points, but he doesn't grasp the whole problem. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand that he's talking about community organized paedophilia, but it's not just community organized. It's state globally state institutional, and he needs to realize that. I hope he's all right in jail. I think his heart's in the right place, and he's got courage, and he's got a sense of diligence, and he cares, but he doesn't understand everything. He doesn't. JJ, do you think cannabis should be legalized? Yes. As Bob Marley sang, legalize it. Yes. Absolutely, it should be legalized. It's one of the things I disagree on with Peter Hitchens about. It should not only be legalized, I think it should be allowed to be used in pharmaceuticals. And well, I've talked about the cancer treatments and things like that before. 69 Phuket. Ben is strange love. I'm strange love. Oh, I feel. Detox, says vegetarian. Yeah, I should do. Mel, I had to essay on Ezra Pound at uni. Indecipherable gibberish from a madman. Oh, right. Did you did you get good marks for that? James, we can't have an honest man in the White House. The whole poo pile would fall down. We'd have to start working for a living. James, we do have an honest man in the White House, and that's why that's happening. Oh, the Hopi ear candle. Yes, I knew somebody tried. I've not tried one of those Phuket. I don't like the idea of it, but I know some people who've used it. Nutin says, "Well, me have my chance to get away with this." Oh, everyone can detox. Yes. Welton SS, hello. Brazil. What does that mean, Welton? Lisa, the most important thing you can do for your body is a long-term fast. It's massive. I know you did a big one, didn't you? I've not tried one, but I have tried the exercises and the yoga for. I'm pleased to report my sciatica is improving, actually. I went at work today. It was a lot better. Vegetarian, you're just going to get some tea and juice. All right. I've got some juice here. It's apple juice. Not really. Nothing says 2020 Norcal worries. Edwardian lady, yes. Tracy Twyman has died. And I've not looked into it, but considering what she did and her beliefs and the fact that many people like her seem to be dying, we should be very worried about this. Fighting the New World Order is about as safe as being a Marconi scientist in the 80s. I mean, there's that Bulgarian girl. Do you remember that young Bulgarian? She was brutally murdered. Well, she was tortured and everything. And it's exposing corruption in Brussels at the EU. Murdered. And then this pattern continues. Phuket says, see what you want to see and hear what you want to see. Nice one, Harry. What does that mean? Are you talking about Prince Harry? I did it. I've done videos about Harry and Meghan and the baby and everything. Lisa, no, I mean, Lisa, I was talking about with Tinfoil Hat Lady about this, about how there's so much more name calling now than there used to be, and you can't disagree with most people now without getting into name callings. And do you remember I had that argument with well, I won't say who it is because it's on a closed group. But I had an argument with someone, and Lisa, you saw that, and you said we were very polite to each other, and I suppose we were, but it was heated because he is a very aggressive. He's quite an aggressive character. But I did stand up to him, and I thought he was wrong, and I told him he was wrong. He didn't like it, but I told him. James says we need an age of stable corruption to dawn. You know, one for me, one for you, one for the offshore trust fund. Yeah, well, we used to have stable trust. Oh, Harry Nilsson. Oh, everybody's talking at me. Is that what you mean? See what you want to hear. Is that a song by Nilsson? Vegetarian. Crypto-Judaism is the secret adherence to Judaism, while publicly professing to be from another faith. Practitioners are referred to as crypto-Jews, from the Greek kryptos being hidden. I've not heard of that, no. I know what crypto means. It's like, I know it's reference to things being hidden, but I didn't know it referred to Jews. Is Shalom Shalom here? Because Shalom Shalom is actually Jewish, and if he or she turns up, then they can say, they give us an insider's view. Rabbit says, if you actually lived in the corrupt dictatorship you imagine you live in, you'd have something real to complain about and would have to make all this stuff up. We do, Rabbit. As I said, it's not, we don't imagine we live in it, and it's not made up. The fact that it's more subtle than it used to be, we don't have tanks in the street or soldiers at the door. We have what is actually a far more serious form of dictatorship. It's being in prison when you believe you're free. David Icke describes this very, very well indeed. JJ, bring back On the Edge with Theo Chalmers. Yeah, at least I love that program. Nothing as it seems. Where are we? Does that mean I have to take a bath? If you want, but wait till after the live stream. Try something called love, says Phuket. Very true. Mel O'Brien, I'm a fellow alumnus of Jordan Peterson. Oh, cool. I'm going to debate the certificate to University College Court. Maybe Moscow would be a better idea. I love that guy. The success of that man is so important. Lisa and I are both Jordan Peterson fans. The very fact that he's become so well known is a really good sign, because his message is so incredibly subversive. And you remember that video when I went to buy his book, and I was like, really? I was thinking it was going to be like when I tried to buy Milo's book and nobody stopped it. They wouldn't order it for me. Do you remember? I went out to buy Jordan Peterson's book. It was on a display cabinet in Waterstones and Blackwell's. I mean, they couldn't keep it quiet. They really couldn't. Paul Armstrong. I loved On the Edge too. Oh, yeah. Neptune, he's not a setup. Jordan Peterson is not a setup. He gets some things wrong, but he's not a setup. He really, honestly, I mean, I think I've done videos about that. Lisa, love starts with only ourselves, and we've all got so much to learn, myself as much as anyone else. That's true, Lisa. You've got to love yourself before you love anyone else. Bastard tube user. Oh, what are you going to be like, mate? Wish we just had a book called Communism. We do. It's called The Archives of the Guardian. Lisa, love starts only. Yeah. Oh, I've gone to the bottom now. But we go again. Oh, where are we now? Oh, blimey. Right. Love is war, says 69 Phuket. That's very Orwellian. J1, hello. Ben, is that a massive tinfoil hat behind you? Yes, it is. You have to watch. If you watch my Dreaming Sources video, Truth Tour of Oxford, you will see exactly what that's for. David Schultz. Speaking of dystopian films, have you ever viewed Equilibrium 2002, Logan's Run, Soylent Green, Edward G. Robertson's last film, and Metropolis 1927? No, Metropolis I think I saw. It's Fritz Lang, isn't it? A silent movie. Logan's Run, very good. That's like Brave New World. It's very, very good indeed. Fantastic film with Michael York in it and Jenny Agutter. Oh, it's brilliant. I've not seen the others. James Tilly Matthews. Someday someone will be arrested for illegally trading love bombs. We already are. I mean, look what we're not arrested yet, but look at what happens to people like us. Look at what happens to us. How successful are we? How powerful and rich do we become? How admired are we by the general population? How respected are we by the media? Look at David Icke, banned from Australia. He is one of the world's biggest deliverers of love bombs, and they couldn't have him in Australia. They were scared to have him in Australia. Gay days and Sundays. Phuket, what does that mean? James, in or out of Europe does not address the problem. If you watch my 2016 video, 2016 Matters, I talk about this. The answer is yes and no. It does address the problem, but only it's not the end. It's not the final solution. It's really not. JJ, exactly. Love Europe, fuck the EU. Yes. Where are we now? The restaurant smells like hell. Take me home. Are you out, Nuttin? Love. They are lovely, these Nordics. So you've been abducted by aliens, Vrillon? Attachment is a bad thing, says Phuket. Yeah, I know, but I've got lots of problems with that. I'll tell you. Lisa, I'm seeing it more as a game now. In fact, as things get more hectic, I'm finding it more enjoyable. I mean, it's like that crisis and opportunity thing that David Icke talks about, the Chinese word. I'm finding life, especially politics, so much more enjoyable than I ever have before. The Cockmeister, hello. Is Tommy Robinson a victim of the Orwell 1984 agenda? I say yes. He is in a way, yeah. In fact, in his speech just before he was locked in jail, he said he quoted Orwell, to tell the truth is a revolutionary act. Yes, he is. Although, I mean, I don't go along with these people who say he's a shill, he's a tool. No, he's not. He's a genuine guy, and he does genuine good. I mean, look at Panodrama. Look how he exposed the BBC. That's the best. That is the best documentary ever made about the BBC in history. I mean, if you're still paying your TV license after you watch that, shame on you. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Right. David Schultz. Thank you. Cheers, David. from David in Maine. There you go. Neil, hello. You just caught this time. Neil, don't worry, I haven't finished yet. This is going to be a long one, guys. This is going to be a long one. I think I'm going to breach the 3-hour mark. I really am with this one. We're talking George Orwell. We are talking 1984. I won't go to bed quietly tonight. Neptune, hope you get over your alcoholism, Ben. Isn't that great? You have one glass of whiskey like this, and I get accused of alcoholism. I get accused of alcoholism by a bloody Irishman. And you, Neptune, you've got a paddy here calling me alcoholic because I have one glass of whiskey. God blimey. You cheeky bastard. Mel, there's no such thing as the Republic of Ireland. It's Ireland, and Ireland and the UK are islands. Yeah. Europe is a continent. Well, yeah, that's kind of like we have to explain these things to the Americans, don't we? The most annoying thing is when the Americans think Wales is part of England, and you have to explain, no, it's a separate country like Scotland. You get these Americans who say, hey, is your name Jones? I know a guy from Wales called Jones. Is he related to you? It's a real small place, this Wales, isn't it? You don't call a Cuban an American. Yeah, they're closer to Ireland than to Europe. Yeah, Europe is a continent. That's right. Great Britain is the island. Ireland is an island, but the islands are split into several states. So, for example, there's the United Kingdom. There's England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, the constituent countries within that United Kingdom. The Republic of Ireland. There is such a thing as the Republic of Ireland, but it's only on Ireland except for Northern Ireland. The division in Ireland actually is very interesting. Miles Johnston has talked a lot about that, about Charles II and how it was all set up. And you get like a lot of people in Ireland are getting it now. There's a brilliant book called Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs by the guy who's died now. It's very, very good. And TNS and people like that talk about the divide and about everything, about how it's all been set up. Israel, Diego Vera. Trump says in recent interviews he has no evidence of aliens. Yeah, I'm going to cover that in my next UFO disclosure video. I was going to do that this week and I didn't. Sorry about that. I just didn't have time. I had to do this instead, basically. And I had to do a couple of other things as well. But yeah, I'm going to cover that. Don't worry. Rules are made to be broken. Exactly. Cheers. Okay, Neil, night. Thanks for joining us. It was a term used by Nazis to make hatred of Jewish people sound more scientific. Well, anti-Semitism. Rabbit. One of the marks of anti-Semitism is an ability to believe stories that could not possibly be true. George Orwell, 1945. Is it? Could not possibly be true. Is it? It doesn't sound like David Icke at all. Right, I didn't know about that. Alchemy 432, the Fool Card Magician, Black Goo. Well, we're not doing Black Goo tonight, but if you want to ask me a question about it, I'll answer it if I can. Vegetarian. According to Wiki, not all Semitic people, only Jewish people are. Yeah, that's again the definition of Semitism and anti-Semitism. Yeah. Hey, Armand, how are you? Life is wonderful, says Lisa. Yeah. It is. It can be. It can be. It's not always, Lisa, but it can be. Gary Robinson. I saw the Sex Pistols when they last played in London about 10 years ago. Are they still going? Oh, I didn't realise they were going. Well, going 10 years ago. JJ, we are each our own devil, and we make this world our hell. That's a good quote. Did you come up with that? But is that a quote from someone else? That's a good quote. I like that. Lisa, yes, with knobs on. Yeah. Croon, hello. This stream would fit nicely on my 4x3 old school television. All right. It's not a telescreen, is it? It doesn't have a camera. Need more for Checkraties. Wasn't the Sex Pistols. Old Men with Money. Oh, Old Men with Money. Right. Vegetarian, 33% are Christian, 22% Muslim, 0.2% Jewish, 75% are mulatto, because China and India each hold 1.4 billion people, and 25% of us are black and white. We're all descendants of monkeys. That's a good summary. Yeah, I mean, if you divide people up, I suppose we're all descended from monkeys. we all have different different racial backgrounds. Yeah, which do change over time. Actually, I mean there's an. I mean we talk about how I think there's an artificial drive to turn people into an artificial race, this golden people type thing. However, there is a natural drift. Racial groups change through natural drift over time. It's got a lot to do with like skin color. It's got a lot to do with sun exposure over many generations. So if you see someone, that's why the reason people in Africa are black is because they're in a country where there's a lot of hot sunshine. We in Europe are white because it allows us to absorb more vitamin D from the sun, whereas in Africa you need protection from that. You need to reduce your vitamin D intake and indeed protect yourself from sunburn. Alchemy says, in these days, if you don't conform to cultural Marxism, you're labelled a Nazi. Yes, you are, exactly. Nothing. Mantis beings don't. Oh, right. Well, judging by the look of their jaws, that's probably a good thing. You're all done delivering, says 69 Food Kit. I mean, you could have a good, you could have a good Western, couldn't you? Instead of The Unforgiven, it could be called The Undelivered. Lisa, too much white noise. Is the microphone working all right? Is it me you're talking about, the microphone? Mel says, Wikipedia full of errors. The American Heritage Dictionary is used by linguistics departments and universities all over North America. Yeah. Where are we? Make your own clatter, says Lisa. Where are we? Vegetarian. The Earth spins round every 23.98 hours. The Earth doesn't spin round, it's flat. Just kidding. Watch my flat Earth video. Any flat Earth comments tonight, by the way? You've been very good so far. I haven't had a single flat Earth comment. If anyone dares to put a flat Earth comment into the chat box, I will immediately refer them to my flat Earth video and say no more. I made that video to get away from this sort of subject, so I'd have a point of reference where I could send people. The Queen should free. Lisa says I'm in my element. The Queen should free Tommy. Vegetarian, I don't think she will. I don't think she wants to free him. Interestingly, Tommy Robinson's at Belmarsh Prison right now. Do you know who else is there? Julian Assange. Do you think they'll be cellmates? I hope so. They'll be good cellmates, actually. Yeah. Assange actually has got a whole year inside. He'll be released before Tommy, probably. Then what will happen to him after that, I don't know. I covered Assange in a previous live stream. 65 days to go, JJ, for Tommy. Yeah, is it? Yeah, is it? I think he got more. How much? Oh, did he get? I thought he got 18 months or 13 months or something, didn't he? Maybe I was getting confused because Epstein had 13 months in an open prison when he was last convicted for when he should really have gone down for life forever, and hopefully he will this time. What was Tommy Robinson's actual sentence? Let's have a look. Tommy Robinson prison sentence. 9 months, right? You're right. 9 months. It's not. So he'll be out before Assange probably. If he's okay, I hope he is. Alchemy says LGBT stands for Let's Get Brainwashed Together. Well, I don't think this is a contentious subject. I believe that some people are naturally homosexual. There's absolutely no doubt about it. People are. My brother, I think, is one of those people, and they always have been, always will be. Probably, well, there's a sliding scale of bisexuality, but it's they reckon there's probably about 15 to 20%, or 10. Was it how many? 10 to 15% are completely gay. There's a sliding scale of bisexuality of about 40%, and then there's people who are completely straight, which is the category I fall in. However, it's been politicized. That's the point. LGBT, the whole gay, everything to do with sexuality has been politicized. This is why they're letting children see drag queens and things like that, and transsexuals. I think that's a bad thing. Children are very vulnerable to this sort of thing. I do remember what it was like to be a child, and it wasn't that long ago. I remember being confused like this about things like that, and I think they should be, if they're going to be taught about these things, it should be when they're older. Mel O'Brien, don't get me started on the so-called royal family. Oh, I've done videos on that, Mel. Nothing says, get a kitten, Ben. You won't be sorry. At least not if I couldn't have a cat in this house. I'm not allowed one anyway. I don't think the other guys would want one. Ahmad and Hassan, I don't think they'd want cats. The landlord doesn't want a cat. Gary Robinson, what does the Q stand for? Do you mean in QAnon? Well, apparently it's something to do with the Q clearance for the Department of Energy. I'm not sure because we don't actually know who QAnon is. It's probably more than one person, actually. I don't believe it's a hoax. I did for a while, but I don't think it is. I mean, I know Kev Baker, my good old mate Kev. He's convinced it's false. He's done videos on this, which I've watched. I've not looked into it to the depth he has, but I've watched debates between the two sides. I've watched the pro-QAnon people, and I don't think it's a hoax. There are fake Q accounts, definitely. But I think what was very interesting, I do recommend going to see the Alien Scientist, his interview with Hassan of the Grassy Knoll. Now, Alien Scientist is this, I've talked about him before, he's this miserable bastard, he really is. He's depressing to watch. But he did one very interesting interview with this guy called Hassan of the Grassy Knoll, who's a former intelligence officer. Now, Alien Scientist brought him in basically to debunk Q, because Alien Scientist is vehemently opposed to Q. Like, he's vehemently opposed to almost everything, actually. But he brought this guy in, and in the end, it sort of backfired because Hassan was saying, you know, based on my experience in the intelligence services, there is some reality behind Q. Q is real. I can see there's some fake posts here, and I know it's, you know, I could see that one's fake, but some of these are real. Rabbit. The guy accused who QC for child abuse turned out to be a nutter. How is that you don't know? No, you mean David Icke? Well, there's several others. How is it you don't know that? I didn't. The guy. Lots of people have accused Heath of child abuse, and it goes back to long before it became a popular idea. I can't stand the bloody Royals. No. Teresa's Todger. That's a nickname, isn't it, James? If Jeremy Hunt becomes PM, in fact, even if he doesn't, we'll call him Teresa's Todger, shall we? I must remember that. That's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. Oh, where are we now? You did make me laugh, yes. A vegetarian. The Queen. I don't know if the Queen can actually pardon people once they've been convicted, because essentially she's the prosecutor. But you know, Tommy does actually make a good point. You know, the traffickers and the gang rapists and people like that. Yeah, the problem is it's far worse than Tommy. It's even worse than he realizes. It's not. It's institutional. It's in children's homes. It's everywhere. Rabbit, please do look up the official ideas about Heath, because there's a lot of official stuff about Heath now. Rabbit. Oh, I see. Chaz and Dave. Yeah, rabbit. Oh, I get it. Sorry. James, feminists are sexy. Really? You must be a masochist then. Oh. Anarchy is freedom with responsibility. Yes, rural Thailand. I've never been to Thailand, but safer in the UK. Q nuclear torpedoes of Putin could cheat. Right. I don't think Putin's going to attack the UK. Don't worry, Lisa. Not all feminists, just sexy, James. Lisa, I don't think any of them are, because I don't find people who hate me or want to kill me attractive. I don't. Is that normal? I mean, I know, and sadly, unfortunately, I know a lot of people who do. I know a lot of people, male and female, who are morbidly sexually aroused by people who are abusive towards them, and it's a very, very sad thing. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen, because, and I'm talking about members of my family here, because once they're in that mindset, you can't really get them out of it. You can't, if they have that kind of low self-esteem, you can't explain to them what's wrong. They can't see it from where they are. You see, and you can't pass a law saying to someone you can't be involved with that person. Oh, where are we? Yes, even the one with yurts and beans. Mel, Queen Elizabeth was convicted in absentia in Canada for the disappearance of Mohawk children during her visit to British Columbia. Yeah, that's Kevin Annett who did that. You're right. Alchemy. Robinson is a Zionist. Yeah, that's the problem, Alchemy. Like a lot of the counter jihad, and he developed this affinity for Israel, and you see it with other people. You see it with people like what's his name? Murray, Charles Murray. Is that his name, Charles Murray? Oh, what's his bloody name? Yes, it is Charles Murray. I'm thinking about. Oh, sorry, I get obsessed with not knowing stuff. Is it? What's his bloody name? Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray. Oh, bloody heck. Oh, damn! I couldn't remember his name. Douglas Murray. Yeah, he's another one. They call him the posh Tommy Robinson. That's where they make the mistake. That is where they make the big. That's a big mistake. That is. Nigel Ten-Strapon. Nigel Ten-Strapon. One of the greatest Tory leaders. Who's that? I don't know any of that name. I think they'd have to change their name if they were in politics. Mel, read Sahara Asia by Dr. James DeMeo. I have. Debating Middle East religious origins of violence, sexual oppression, and religion. Yes, I have, Mel. Believe it or not, I've got a copy of that book, a great big whopper of a book. It was given to me by a good friend of mine, actually, who I've met, who's into orgonomy. And I actually met him a few months ago. And Sahara is very interesting. It talks about Wilhelm Reich and the stuff that came out with things like that. Very interesting. I don't know where it's not in this. I had to keep it at my dad's place because this house. There's not enough room in this house for this book. It's so big. Halloween is every day. Nothing. Oh yeah. Well, I wish it was bloody Brexit Day. I'll tell you. Paul Armstrong, fasting and a few pints of urine will sort you right out. Yeah, Paul, have you tried it? I haven't yet. Hunting Nemesis. Brexit means Brexit. It bloody well should, I'll tell you. James, the best thing you can do for your body is apply Japanese bikini twins to the affected areas. Japanese bikin twins. I don't know what that is. We need Nigel Farage. Well, I can't help liking him. I mean, there's some elements of him I think are suspicious, but I've talked about Caroline Stevens about this. By the way, I'm on Caroline Stevens' show tomorrow at 7, so check that out on her channel. Yeah, we need no deal. Yeah, WTO. Yeah, WTO. Yeah, get it. I'm a Brexiteer plus. I believe in no deal right now, complete, total. I'm the ultimate Brexiteer. I am. Adam Longworth. Hello. Orwell perfectly depicts the struggle between communism and capitalism in his beautiful piece of literature. I don't interpret it that way. It's a beautiful piece of literature, but it's more like the struggle between authoritarianism. Particularly, he is dealing, I think, in terms of Animal Farm and 1984. We are talking particularly about a particularly left-wing form of authoritarianism. There's no doubt about it. So it's a struggle between it has a left-wing flavor, this particular type of authoritarianism, and humanity, basically, freedom, free thoughts, the right to say 2 + 2 = 4, as he puts it. Hunting Nemesis says, I got called a slut because I love male genitalia. No, look, I can't help you with that problem, unfortunately. 60, I don't do royals. You won't want the videos. I do videos on the royals, but they're not very complimentary, I say, with the royal family. James says, Nigel Ten-Strapon. Nigel Ten-Strapon was quite an out of the box thing. Nigel Ten-Strapon? I don't know anyone called Nigel Ten-Strapon. He must have been ripped to shreds as a kid at school, if that was his name. Oh, vegetarian. Many people were misprogrammed, but I think we can control aging if we can manage to prevent World War III. You can live happily eternally because everything is energy. Well, I hope so for a vegetarian, Hunting Hunting Nemesis, your hat is fire and frick. Where you cop it from? This. I'll just put it on just so I wouldn't look like a big boiled egg on the camera. No, this is town. These are Hunting Nemesis Auschwitz. Don't know why you put that there. Sensitive will not lead to censorship. I don't know what you mean. Right. James, I can't get with this anti-Jew speak. I love Martin Friedman too much. Well, there's no anti-Jew speak here. Well, I wouldn't tolerate. I wouldn't tolerate racial hatred here. But the problem is that the racial hatred is applied to completely harmless terms now. For example, saying, I think feminism is a bit dodgy here and there. You get called a Nazi if you say that. That's not hate speech. Yet it's branded hate speech. That's very Orwellian. Oh, Hunting Nemesis. I like Tommy Robinson, just like Tommy Robinson. Zayad Radwan. Hello, Zayad. Talk name, please. I'm Ben. Adam, was that a film? Okay. Hobby Tubby. Lisa, one of my favourite films is Silent Running, Pure Gold. Lisa, it's Silent Running is a great movie, but it's heartbreaking. I've watched it once. I can't watch it again. It's heartbreaking. There's a couple of films like that actually. I really can only watch one. It's just like there's a Tommy Robinson chant going around at the moment. This is what technocracy looks like: synthetic telepathy, reality. Yes. Well, that's what 5G will give us, won't it? Yeah. Mellow Brian, my dog had a tumour. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, I've gone to the bottom again. Right. Oh, blimey. Oh, my dog had a tumour. The vet wanted to operate. I heard about the doctor and isn't curing people with it. I tried it whack on my dog, but the tumour disappeared in a couple of weeks, losing his licence. Oh, well, I'm glad, Mel. I'm glad the dog's okay. And I mean, Tiberius Kirk treated his doggy with cannabis oil, and the doggy did recover from the cancer. Sadly, he passed away for other causes, but he did recover from the cancer. Yeah, you do. I mean, when she's retired, I'll tell you the full story about my friend, the nurse, and what she did. At the moment, I can't because she's still working. She kept her job by the skin of her teeth, but she cured her friend's cancer with cannabis oil. And the NHS wanted to kick her out, what they did me. Vegetarian says all intelligence agencies are Masonic and controlled by the Jesuits. Right, yeah. Well, you look at MI5, eh? It's got the bloody Eye of Providence in it. It's an Illuminati pyramid, the MI5 logo. Check it out. James, definitely. So Huey, Louie, and Dewey. Huey, Louie, and Dewey are these little ducks, aren't they, with Disney? Oh, baking soda. Yeah, there's an article on Nexus about sodium carbonate for that. Alchemy. I'm a shoplifter. Oh. Well, be careful. The last shoplifter I knew was found squashed under Tesco's. That's an old one, isn't it? Okay. Trot Vaughan, you can love others and hate yourself. Well, yeah. I mean, yes. Well, I don't know. I don't think you could. If you hate yourself, you can't love others. You can love yourself and hate people. I think. I mean, I try not to hate people. I find it very difficult. Because there's people in my life who've earned my hate. But I understand it's destructive. It's something I think what I'm doing is I may not be able to rid myself of it completely. And Lisa and I have talked about this, but I can integrate it. I've learned to integrate those feelings, those negative feelings for others. And maybe that might have to do. If I can rid myself of the hatred, that would be even better. But I'm aware of the problem. I'm dealing with it. I'm not just accepting it. It's a Madonna song. All right. Mel, I thought Peterson was a jerk, but I changed my mind. Well done. Lisa Phillips, I think Peterson is awesome. Yes, he is. He's bloody awesome. Vegetarian says, universal peace now. Yeah. World War III is our name. World War III is what they're trying to drag us into all the time, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Oh, all right, okay. Where are we? Vrillon, I think he's talking to someone else there. Next possible World War III date, says Vegetarian. August the 10th. Tisha B'Av. Is that when you think it might start? That's less than a month away. Rabbit says, do you attribute your failures to sinister outside forces rather than your own actions? That's generally what fuels conspiracy theory belief. Well, thank you very much, Rob Brotherton. No, the answer is no. And I've done entire videos actually debunking that psychobabble about things like that. And you're wrong, basically. Phuket, I pay my TV license to my wife's tie, and I can't explain. Oh. You sound like that sketch from Little Britain, Ting Tong. I don't know what you mean, but Mel, the chemtrail stop during the Clintons' visit. Every time a VIP comes in, a chemtrail stop. Is that right? I'll check that out next time it happened, because it didn't happen when Trump was here. But then Trump is not what they call a VIP, is he? James, you have to go for a T and a P. All right. So you can keep listening with your wireless headphones. That's great. Brilliant. I was at the Panderhorn Barracks and I met 4 Nords in the woodlands. Really? You were abducted by Nordics? Angelic. Oh, right. Right, well, that's interesting. It's more common than people think, actually, alien abduction. Right. You had sounds like you had a CE5 thing. According to some BBC articles, says Vegetarians healthier than drink alcohol and not some alcohol, none at all. Well, that's good. James, this is where my lifelong love affair with conservatism began. All right. You see, I suppose I'm more right-wing than I used to be. I actually was a Labour Party member once, believe it or not. Ooh, yeah. My dark, dirty past is coming out. But I was only 18, and I quit pretty quickly. But, yeah, I was a trade unionist, actually, back then. Since then, I've become different. I wouldn't call myself right-wing. I don't think of myself as a wing. But I'm certainly not like I used to be. I am conservative in many things, actually. Rabbit says, David Icke externalizes his inadequacies. He looks out on the world and sees his own reflection. That's why he's so full of fear and hate. Utter bullshit. Utter crap. David was the first to admit he's not perfect, but he's not full of fear and hate. He experiences neither of those emotions. You don't know anything about him, Rabbit. Nothing. Well, Thornhill not yet banned from his homeland. Is he not? Because, well, Thornhill talks about the electric universe, which is very interesting. And he's Australian, so I suppose they keep on out. Hi, Armand, how are you? I'm all right, thanks. Rabbit says, one of the marks of anti-Semitism is the ability to believe. Okay, you say this is a quote from Orwell. I don't understand it. I don't remember Orwell saying it. Maybe it'll be in that book that you were talking about, the one by Christopher Hitchens. I don't know. Or someone else was talking about. Mel, at UN, it's Ireland, not the ROI. Oh, right, Republic of Ireland. I see. So they call it the Republic of Ireland to appease Northerners. Oh, really? That's interesting. Where are we? There's someone called the Smitten Kittens who says, I'm a chicken nugget. So get all sorts here, don't we? Right. Lisa, do we actually know what we're descended from, though, to be honest? Well, you know, there's some ideas that we're slightly pig-like because we have pig-like skin. And I reckon we are aliens. I reckon we're descended from aliens, or we were genetically engineered from aliens, I think. David Schultz. I started to do the show Outlander in 1945 Nurse. Right, I've not seen that, David. Lisa says, we in Britain are white because the weather's shite. Well, you know, believe it or not, Lisa, that's kind of true. We have developed pale skins because we need vitamin D, and because the amount of sunshine we get, our pale skins allow us to get more. 69 Phuket, exciting times. Yes, that'd be a good title for a newspaper, wouldn't it? Nothing. Jones is one of the most prevalent alongside Mr. Smith. All right. All right. The white noise is not me. Okay, Lisa. Cheers. James, yes. Mel, that book is very interesting. I have not read it all. I mean, so you must admit it's a huge book, James DeMio's Saharasia. But and it's not in the house. I've got it at my dad's house. It was like given to me by my friend who's an orgonomist. But yeah, it's quite something. I might lend it to Nick Hayes, actually. I think you'd find it interesting. Lisa, is your world an octagon? Lisa, do you really think Robinson and Assange are really there? Hashtag just asking. I do, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, I know I've seen Rich Planet and what Richard D. Hall says about Assange, and I think, yeah, it's a possibility that Assange is some kind of controlled opposition, but to be honest, I doubt it. I mean, for reasons I've explained in other videos, I doubt it, and there's no reason to think he's not where he says he is. If you know anyone who's visited him, let me know. I mean, as you know from previous live streams, people have posted in here saying some of the things that Rich Planet says are wrong, like the Manchester Arena attack and things like that. And I said, well, get in touch with Richard. Rabbit, Tommy Robinson was prosecuted for contempt of court for 9 months. Yeah. I don't think he deserved that. Right. Try something vegetarian. I thought not another one. Earth is spherical, ball-shaped, oblique, easy to prove. I know, vegetarian. I don't know how long you've been watching this channel. I do know that. I've made a video about flat Earth, which I do recommend. Spoiler alert, I conclude the Earth is round. All right, but Mel, there's a banned TEDx talk showing that the speed of light cannot be calculated. It changes constantly. Oh, is that is Rupert Sheldrake, isn't it? Yes, that was banned. Yes, it was. It was banned. Well, it was put in the naughty corner on their TED controversies. Oh yeah, it was. Yes, in fact, it's at not Greenwich. It's somewhere in Teddington, actually, in West London. They measure. It's the official measurement of the speed of light, and it keeps. It's not constant. They get different results all the time for the speed of light, which means Einstein would be wrong because the speed of light is crucial to his theories. Very identified gay disabled submarine. Oh, right, do you? Well, I'm sure there's a support group for you somewhere. Lisa, I personally don't care who fucks so long as they just get on with it behind closed doors. And yes, absolutely, completely controlled avenge. Yes, Lisa. Dr. Jordan Peterson has talked a lot about this, and I agree. I don't have a problem with another person's adult's private life doesn't interest me in any way. And I don't understand why someone would become obsessed with another adult's private life, unless, of course, it's a woman I admire. Apart from that, I can't think of any other reason. Oh, Fuka, I'm sorry. I won't read that out, but I'm sorry you had that experience. Vrilon, I do watch Alien Scientists, but it's a bit like Kevin Logan. I mean, I don't like him. He's sometimes interesting, I must admit, but he's kind of like the Kevin Logan of the ufology world. Everything he says is about other people and how awful they are. He is a joyless, bitter individual, and in every one of his videos, he now, especially lately, he's really laying into almost everyone you can imagine. There's almost he literally, I think he thinks he's this lone voice crying in the wilderness, and everyone else is a shill or a dupe or a moron, etc. That's James. Voracious pink oboe, are you? Rabbit. QAnon is mostly a guy called Praying Medic. He's on YouTube. All right, there's some fake. Yeah, you've been watching the controversies and about how QAnon's allegedly been proved as a hoax by several people. There's these people called the Bakers, and they've been making stuff up. Yeah, there's no doubt there's been some fake Qs, absolutely. But I don't think Q is I think Q is real. Angela, Q Zionist shield's working hard today. Q is a Zio spy. Oh, blimey. Wake up, Q sheeple. Trump is no. Trump is not owned by Zaya banksters. No, he's not. Oh. Let's have a look. Hope Tommy's Barrett fumbling. Oh, I'm going to remove that. That's nasty. That's nasty. Don't forget he's got kids, James. Don't say that. Whatever you feel of him, no. A new aircraft carrier sprung a leak, has it? Oh, right. You know it's called Queen Elizabeth II. Maybe there's some reptilian put their teeth through it. I don't know. Is it going to sink? Is it all right? I wouldn't want it to sink, especially if there's sailors on board, obviously. Vegetarian. I'm a single hetero male from Holland. Evil. Hetero male. Ugh. I like this chat in the video. I'm glad, vegetarian. Welcome. I'm glad you've joined us. James, am I the only one who finds female hatred sexy? What's the world coming to? I mean, really? I don't know. I can't speak for others. I certainly don't. I certainly do not. I find it's the biggest turn-off imaginable. And I think it's not healthy, I think, to equate sex with hatred like that, or sexual attraction with hatred. I don't think that's healthy. That's a sign of the risk of sounding rude, or warped sexuality. James, all right. Yeah, Holland has this reputation, doesn't it? Yeah. Mel, aircraft carriers are obsolete in modern warfare. Well, you know, funny enough that they've been saying that, because all you need now are drone bases. You don't need aircraft carriers anymore. Well, they built one, haven't they? God knows what. Maybe they're going to use it to attack us. I don't know. Maybe it's going to go for Godzilla after the no-deal Brexit. Maybe Godzilla will then be needed to attack Godzilla. For vegetarians, so many YouTubers have absolutely nothing interesting to say. Ben the J Porter has interesting stuff to say. Oh, thank you. So you're subscribing. Thank you very much, vegetarian. Much appreciated. Hope I'll keep you entertained for some more. I love living the axis of evil, says James. We got our kids doing yoga and meditation. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's good for you, I think. Cowboy Animal. Hello, Cowboy. Persians are great people. I've never been to Iran in that area, so I don't know. Orgone works. Yes, it does. Where are we? 69 Phuket says spiritual beings in a disco world. Vrillon. Yes, I have Bob Lazar's VHS. Yeah, I mean, the Bob Lazar thing. I did a whole video on Bob Lazar, and I watched the movie. Very interesting it is, too. Unless if you go to, of course, Alien Scientist doesn't believe Bob Lazar, has made loads of rants about Bob Lazar. He doesn't believe anything or anyone. I mean, you name it, he's against it. Name a person, he's against them. He's depressing to watch, actually. He really is. But I do watch his. I want to hear his side of the story, so I watch his stuff too. Maybe that's why I watch Kevin Logan. You'll be glad to know I'm not planning any reply videos to Kevin Logan for the foreseeable future. I don't think Praying Medic is QAnon. No, I don't think so. QAnon is a psyop to push. No, QAnon's not a psyop. I don't believe it is. And QAnon is not neither a psyop nor is it fake. I can't go into detail now. I've done a live stream about it, but there was some reality behind Q. Only a Tesla plasma shield. You know, I'm going to watch that Current War movie. I will do one of my camera things when I go there. Don't worry, I will do that because I know you like them and I enjoy them. I'm going to go and see the Current War. Yeah, it'd be great. Oh, there we go. Where are we now? Praying Medic is a podcaster nonetheless, and a good one. I've watched a couple of his videos, stuff about Q. Not the time to do to shit post as Q does, and you guys should know better than to fall for those LARPs. Well, you see, again, it's not like you say falling for these LARPs. Well, I mean, I've looked at it. I mean, I've watched the debates. I mean, I know Kev Baker doesn't agree, and I've not discussed this with him, and maybe I should discuss it with him, but I've discussed it with other people, and I know there was debates about the Q when the Q thing came out about how there was some fake stuff on 4chan. They went to 8chan and stuff like that. But I don't think it is for reasons I explained in my QAnon live stream. You can check that out. Where are we now? I'm going to go for it. There's a bit of a discussion between people. Where am I? Oh my god. Now. Cowboy animal. We look at the Talmud and then cry racism against the Goyim. Actually, the Talmud is interesting, Cowboy, because it's actually a dialogue. I mean, this is what's often not understood. David Icke actually get this wrong as well. It's actually the bit which it talks about how evil Gentiles are. It's actually a dialogue. It's actually a dialogue which ends with the conclusion that Gentiles are not evil and they are human. And there's actually a whole web page about that. So this thing about the Talmud being evil and against non-Jews is actually not true. Lisa, this day feminism is another absolute divide and conquer over the top. Yeah, it is. As Dr. Jordan Peterson has said, absolutely. Phuket says silent running is sad. It bloody well is. Yes, it is extremely sad. I said I don't want to watch it again. Cowboy animal, find shit will fuck everybody. Yeah, if you look at Mark Steele's representation, it is worrying. It really is. For long, I couldn't watch it again. I really couldn't. It's all right, Cowboy. This is an adult. Yeah, this is an adult live stream. Lisa, it's sad, but it's about the environmental destruction. Really, it's a film. It's a futuristic science fiction movie about environmental destruction, but it's just so awfully sad. It's incredibly. It's devastating, actually. James, all I'm saying is women with passion are wonderful. They are. Just because they want to wear my testes like earrings doesn't make them bad people. It does. And hatred isn't. You say women with passion are wonderful, but you said women with hatred are wonderful. And now you're saying they want to do what they did to you, and you don't think that makes them bad. Lisa, the robots really in that film really became very much, and especially when he gives them names. He names them after those Disney ducks. I know, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and they become much more alive actually through the course of the film. And it's oh my god, it's very well done. And it's incredibly sad. I don't even like to think about it. Yeah. Oh, right, Lisa. Yeah, I know. So I realise now. Yeah, we were asking about Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the robots and. Oh yeah, it's awful. You can't love someone until you learn to love yourself. That's true, Cowboy. But you can be loved by others. Yeah, but it's a very destructive thing to love someone who doesn't love themselves, as I found out for my cost. Sticks and stones. JJ can break your bones. Names should never hurt you. Oh, but sticks and stones can break your bones. Names can break your heart. Vegetarian. Thank you. You're a nice person. Good speaker. Thank you. It's talking to me. Thanks, Vegetarian. I'm glad you're enjoying this. Lovers never trying to meet their husband. Savage, says James. James, honestly, you are. I don't think you have a healthy attitude towards relationships. You don't. I think you don't. Lisa, watch a lady called Byron Katie, Ben. Oh, right. I think I have. Is she the one who talks about narcissists and things? Someone sent me a link. Was it you who sent me a link to this video on covert narcissism? Benson, Arizona, another, yeah. I don't know that film. Nexus, oh right, Mel. Yes, Nexus was where I saw it on a baking soda and that. And the silver iodide thing is very good as well. Neil Desperandum. Hello, Neil. Do you believe that the Antichrist beast, one world leader, will arise as foretold in Revelations? Not literally, but I think it's symbolic. I think it is symbolic of the spiritual forces at work in the universe, about how they emerge, and there is a battle between the good and evil going on at the moment. Vegetarian. False flag attack on oil tankers. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, all the evidence is, for me, indicates this was a false flag. Iran, there's no evidence Iran did it. There's a very vague image supposedly showing an Iranian Navy patrol boat attaching a limpet mine to the ship. It's not conclusive. Iran deny it. The captain of one of the ships says it's not Iran. Iran have nothing. They have nothing to gain and everything to lose by doing it. It is a false flag. Lisa, I sometimes think the more the collective think about things, the more likely it will happen. The bloody NG thing again. Yeah. Vegetarian. It's scientifically proven healthier to be a vegan or vegetarian than a cadaver eater. Do not eat GMO pork. Become vegetarian. I think I eat small amounts of meat because I don't actually think it's natural for us to be vegetarians. I know some people have a body type that can manage it, others are not. I don't think we should not eat large amounts of meat. I think people generally eat too much of it. I think we should eat a minimal amount. I certainly need that, I think, with my body type. Vrilon says he voted for Blair. Do you know, Vrilon, I did in 97. I voted for Blair in 97, and I regret it, obviously. But I didn't know. I couldn't see the future. Vegetarian, animal fat, animal protein increase your cancer risk. Right. Well, you know, I mean, the vegetarian debate is not something I can get into in detail, but there was actually a video about because my ex-partner, Sue Stain, she was very into this sort of thing, and she covered the debates between various people on this. But I know that the SOT people say that we should have a small amount of meat, and there's others who say we don't. I mean, there's Jungle Surfer, who's a complete vegan. Well, Lisa, I know you're complete vegetarian. Are you vegan or vegetarian? Yeah, the vitamin B12. A Stain was going on about B12 all the time. Vrilon says, me and my mates are 20 co-op budget burgers. All right. They announced that CJD passed through the beef. You off, cowboy? Good night. Thank you very much. It's getting late now, I know. I've just had a comment from somebody. Who is it? Oh, it's Neptune Returns. Kate is a man baby, was hatched and lab, and Meghan Markle is a man. I'll cover that. Look, can I cover that in the comments reply? The next comments reply video. Oh, what time is it? Oh my God, we've been good for 3 hours plus, guys. We've been good for over 3 hours. I think this is a record for live streams. Night. Holy poor. All right. Robert G. Hello, Robert. War is peace, and we should have bombed Iran, but Trump is a. No, we shouldn't have bombed Iran. No, we shouldn't. Robert, you bomb Iran for what? Because of a false flag attack that was carried out by somebody else? Do you realise what would happen if we go to war with Iran? Do you realise that Iraq and Afghanistan would be like bar and brawls in comparison? Do you realise that the people who want us to take over the world, you know, the New World Order, the neocons, they want us to go to Iraq. They're the Zionists, neocons. They want us this war so they can destroy our nations. That's what they want us to do. I know that Ben Shapiro was saying, but did you see the argument between Ben Shapiro and Paul Joseph Watson? Because Shapiro said, "Oh, bomb Iran now," and Joseph Watson was saying, "Shapiro, you're nuts," and he is, because I quite like some of the things Shapiro says. But then he comes out with this, "Oh no, Iran's we bomb Iran now, bomb Iran." No. James says vegetarians are God's way of legalizing corn-fed vegans with blue cheese. Oh, yum yum yum. It's like I saw that. There's a fridge magnet showing like a pit bull or like a Rottweiler or something, saying, "Yeah, I want a full vegan diet. Yes, I eat at least one vegan every day." JJ, fake disclosure coming soon, 2020. Oh, JJ, make sure you watch my next UFO disclosure video, which is belated. I should have done it by now. Maybe I'll get it done over the weekend. I don't know. But please do watch it. Lisa, I know it's getting late. I'm going to have to finish soon because it's getting late. Thanks for sticking with this, man. Further on, Project Bluebeam. I don't know if it would be Project Bluebeam. I'm not sure about that. But I know there's a possibility of some kind of fake disclosure, yes. Mel, you've had several CE5s. You mean you do the thing with I can't say it because Greer will charge me. He'll charge me £5,000 if I say it. But there's a way of bringing down the aliens. You know, vegetarians to get all the special powers of cannibals. Eat the cannibal that ate most people. All right. I remember I read this zombie novel where to stop zombies attacking you had to eat a zombie. I remember. JJ, can I suggest water with the whiskey? Ach, you wee lily livered pussy. I drink it the way it's supposed to be drunk. Hey, Robert. Gravity affects light. Yeah. Where are we now? Mel O'Brien. I spoke to Dr. Hynek in Toronto. Oh, right. I remember you saying something how you met J. Allen Hynek. Yeah. Go on. Do you watch C.W. Chancer, Ben? No, I know. I've heard the name. I've not heard of it. Speed of light in a vacuum is note C. Yeah, but vegetarian. It's not exact. Well, it may be exactly that, but it changes. I mean, the people at the measuring station have said it changes. Very interesting. JJ, no, watch my flat Earth video. That's all I'm going to say. Lisa, the priority of not determining the shape. All right, Lisa, you put some good comments on the live stream on the radio show last night. You really did. David Schultz, time to hit the road. All right then, you take care, Dave. Thanks for tuning in. See you again, I hope. Mel, try some nonsense. The Michelson-Morley experiments proved it wasn't. Yes. Well, they didn't prove that. No, they didn't prove that anything about the speed of light specifically. They proved the existence of the ether. Now, I know that Michelson-Morley's first experiment failed to find anything. There was no movement in the beams. And Einstein then based his theory of special relativity on that. However, read in Nexus magazine, they have an article explaining how repeats of the Michelson-Morley experiment did reveal variations in the beams, which meant there was some kind of ether. Have I got a fish tank in the room, Lisa? I think it's the fan. I've got a fan on because it's really hot here. I think that's what you're hearing. That's what you hear. It's just a fan. Ben is a portly portal. All right. Mel, yeah, the check out Nexus for that. Yeah. Lisa, all hail Friday night letting off some steam. Yes. I think we're coming to the end. Rabbit, Bob Lazar, con artist. Well, you see, 4 words is not an argument, Rabbit. If you explain why he's a con artist, where's your evidence? I mean, I have looked at this. I've looked at both sides. I watch Alien Scientist stuff on Bob Lazar. I've watched the Jeremy Corbell film. I've watched Lazar himself and the pro-Lazar people. I've done a video. I think I've done a couple of videos on Bob Lazar. So please do check those out. Where we are. Meditating the chat. All right. Oh, got at the bottom again. Up we go. Where are we now? Okay. It's not that many. Good. Kevin Logan killing Kevin. Oh man, he's got another bloody video out. I've got to watch now. Oh dear, I have to. Don't know. I have to watch it. Rabbit, I can guarantee QAnon has fakes. It's some guy stringing some very gullible people along. Well, no, Rabbit, I don't think so. I mean, there are fake Qs. I know that. But I do recommend watching the debates. I mean, I haven't delved into it the way Kev Baker has. I know he did a big project on this, so he really went into in depth. I've watched his videos on the subject, but I haven't watched all the videos he watched. But I have watched the debates, and I don't agree. QAnon is not fake. Yeah, Lisa, that's true, Lisa. Yeah. How you treat others and everything around you, yes. Vegetarian. Have you guys had normal weather in Britain? There's no such thing as normal weather in Britain, vegetarian. We have had a lot of hot weather here, but we've had a lot of, like, there's been chemtrails and there's been strange clouds. Yeah. Phuket. I like Ike, yes. Mel O'Brien. Don't trust anyone who has military or government connections when they talk about UFOs, like Nick Pope, Kerry Cassidy, Stephen Greer, most of the loony US UFO crowd. Right, well, Richard Dolan has done a video on this, and I think he makes some good points. We should certainly be wary of what people say, which is why I don't quite understand how some people are sort of welcoming Richard Doty back into the fold. I'd be curious to meet Richard Doty, I really would. I'd be polite to him, I'd be civil, and I'd be interested to talk to him, but I would take every word he says with a pinch of salt, literally. That guy he's a very destructive con man. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was in the 1980s, really. But some people have forgotten. I haven't. He was and Nick Pope again. Nick Pope, I don't trust. There's reason not to. Kerry Cassidy. What's wrong with Kerry Cassidy? What's her connections to the government? And Greer. What about Greer? Again, is someone You see, it's very trendy these days to be a kind of either or situation. Either a person is sort of like God on earth, or they're an evil shell. And you have to be 100% certain, don't you? There's no middle ground. There's no uncertainty permitted. Well, I am reserving the right to say 2 + 2 = 4, as George Orwell said. And that includes not condemning people without proof, being wary of people for various reasons, but not standing on soapboxes and pointing to people and saying, he's a shill, she's a shill, everyone's a shill, which is what some people in this movement do. And one of the worst offenders is actually alien scientist. He's one of the worst. But I don't think we should just not trust people. I think we should be wary. Like Richard Dolan talks about the TTSA and things like that, and I think I agree with him. This doesn't mean that there's not something to be concerned about. John Greenwald in A Black Vault, what he says, he might be right about some of it. And I'm going to cover that in my next UFO disclosure video. Oh, God, when am I going to do that bloody video? I don't know. I'm supposed to write an article. Oh, God, I don't know. Vegetarian. Oh, shit, Ben Yachi taught us. Okay. Right, vegetarian, I've just explained how that section of the Talmud is a dialogue. And it talks about hypotheticals. It doesn't actually say that. Mel O'Brien, but believe in blue chickens. They're great for barbecue. I don't believe in the blue chickens. The blue chickens come from Arthur C. Clarke. I don't know how Corey Good got that. I suspect he got the idea from there. James, they should do a remake of Silent Running with James Cash. Oh, God. Oh, man, I couldn't. I wonder how the Blue Avians feel about KFC, says Rillon. Oh, man, I don't know. But again, they were from Arthur C. Clarke. What's this bloody thing doing now? I don't. Bill Hicks, JJ. Yes, if people suffer from depression, Bill Hicks is just perfect. I love Bill Hicks. Vegetarian. Judaism are a violent by means of deception. Thou shalt do war. Yes, that's not Judaism. That is Mossad. Mossad and Judaism. Mossad is an intelligence agency of Israel. Judaism is a very ancient religion and culture. So I don't see why you say you use that as a reason for saying Judaism is violent ideology. Or Michael Prince's Adventures, the movie. I've read his book, Agent Buried Alive. It's, what can I say? Imaginative. Yeah, the entities are fooling us. They can fool us, yeah, in many ways. Islam is a violent ideology because apostates are killed. Yeah, yeah. If you, Islam obviously can coexist with the modern world if people compromise their beliefs, and many Muslims succeed in doing that. And indeed, I live with 2 of them. But the problem is what we have now is we have this radicalization agenda, which has been done deliberately by the intelligence services. There's another thing that Tommy Robinson doesn't understand, and he needs to learn to understand it because it's very important. Where are we now? My goodness me, 20 past midnight. Okay. Miles Johnson in a remake of Simon and Tony Topic. It's the robots. All right. Rabbit, David, he's not a classic narcissist. No, you're going back to his Wogan interview, where by his own admission, he wasn't quite in his normal mind. Think about Miles Johnson telling his private in deep space. From now on, I'm going to call you Huey, Dewey, and Louie. You must maintain the forest. You understand me? And kick the black goo out into space. Prince Charles warned people about a genetic Armageddon, says vegetarian. Well, it's here, isn't it? It's happening. And from a reptilian from the fifth dimension, he should know. JJ, I'm sorry I voted Blair. I didn't know. It was in 1997. I never voted for him again after that. I promise you. I never would. I think the man belongs in jail. Rabbit. David Icke also believes the moon is a giant alien spaceship. That's something you got wrong, Rabbit. There are artificial structures on the moon, no doubt, but the moon, I believe, is a natural object. Prince Charles is not a genetic aberration. He's a perfectly normal reptilian humanoid. Lisa. Great, Lisa just given a good riposte there. Believing is stupid, knowing is smart. Now, I know there's Royal Navy ships currently in the Gulf, but if are they really going to open fire on our ship? For what reason? Why would they open fire on our ships unless they're actually invading in territorial waters? If this is actually the worst thing Iran could possibly do, why does everyone believe they're actually doing it? The conspiracy cat. Oh, hello. The tides are caused by the rise and fall of the earth in the bosom of the mighty deep space. Conspiracy cat, watch my flat earth video. It's such a relief to be able to say that, Just and every time one of these comments appears, I just say, watch the flat earth video. That's it. Template response. Because there's no real God, says the vegetarian. There will never be a real Messiah. I think the Messiah is another of these. It's again symbolic of something. It's not a person any more than the devil is a person. It represents something inside our collective minds. It could be a Messiah, meaning something that saves us. A lot of cultures have this idea. I believe it could be that. It could be something that emerges in us that kicks off the devil part of that. Well, I don't believe the moon is a giant alien spaceship, says Rabbit, just because some loony narcissist says it is. Lol. We know it, Rabbit. That's the first thing you said tonight that I agree with. I don't believe David is a loony narcissist, but he's wrong about the moon, and we shouldn't believe it just because he says so. Hero 70, hello from Japan. Hello. How are you? James says that's exact opposite of Dr. Grisborough. Open behinds at all times. What are you suggesting, James? Jameson is nicer than Johnny Walker. Yes, it is. Jameson's lovely. It's a kind of strawberry taste to it. Conspiracy cat. Can I please ask, are the tides caused by the rise and fall of the earth in the bosom of the mighty deep space, comma? Yes, you may ask, and the answer is, watch my flat earth video. 2-0, 2-0. 2-0. Right, where are we now? Let's go back up. Where are we? Right. Mel, nobody ever mentions that Iran has a defense treaty with Russia. Oh, you see, yes. This is why. Do you realize if Hillary Clinton had been president, we'd be at war with Russia by now? Do you realize this is why Trump has been working so hard to destabilize these neocon orbiters that the swamp has forced him to suck in? My God, we got a. Oh my God, bomb. Oh, Beach Bombs Boys song, yeah. I've heard that one, yeah. I know, Villon, I won't be able to listen to that song the same way. Glenn Baranchi. Yes, very nice. No, Greer is a shill, said Mel. Greer I don't trust. I think he's his ego is getting in the way. That's the problem. He's one of these people who has an ego problem. 69 food kits. The tides are caused by the consequential turtle. Flat Earth video. DJ. Night. We're each our own devil and we make this world our hell. JJ, that's a brilliant saying, and I'm pleased I must remember that. Somebody write it down for me, will you? Oh, blimey. Good night, JJ. That's actually excellent. Vegetarian. Religious. MK Ultra TV. Oh, my goodness. Hello. Yeah, I mean, 69 Phuket, I hate people. I don't like it when I keep hearing these people go on and on about, you know, shill. They very rarely have evidence. It's very often a supposition. And as I said, you know, there's some people are worse than others at this. There are some people who do this to the point of obsession. Now, they're right in some cases, but I really do caution them against this overzealous behavior when it comes to shill shaming. I've done it. Just watch my tribunal video. I go into that, and it's the ones before it. I go into detail there. Vegetarian. What if the CIA and Mossad funded WikiLeaks? Yes, Mossad and Soros behind WikiLeaks. Well, you know, again, I watched the Rich Planet program on this, and so far I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced of it at all, and I explain why in I did a review of the program of Panel of Voice. I've done 2016, my 2016 video I've done. Oh, anyway, night, guys. Night, JJ. Night. You got your contact in the desert, James. Well, you know that contact in the desert thing? They banned that guy, didn't they? What's his name? Jordan, what's his name? The young chap, Jordan so-and-so. Because he was going on about QAnon. And they wouldn't bring his video out. Luckily, it's a bootleg version from someone in the audience. They wouldn't publish his video. That was Contact in the Desert. I always want to go there anyway. Yeah. Never again. Yeah. There are no black and white. No. No. There's very very rarely are things black and white. Honestly. Sometimes, but extremely rare. Normally, there's more to it than that. But people are too willing to go into the black and white, and maybe it's cooler. It makes them look harder and tough, and gets them more views or thinking like that. But I say to them, so no. Step back and take a closer look. And the worst thing, and what these black white people do is they'll immediately pour scorn on anyone who doesn't join them. You know, I've been called a shill enabler. I've been called a shill supporter by people simply because I say, look, have you got evidence for what you say about that guy? And they'll go, you're a shill supporter. You must be a shill yourself. Yeah, I mean, vegetarian. Yeah, defend your homeland. Yes. That's it, Lisa. Yeah. None of us know anything for really short. Yeah. James, there's a man who's never lost his trousers in Africa. Neither have I, actually. Michael Palin did. Do you remember that video? And there's a guy sews out with a sewing machine. I remember that. Yeah, but I do too. I denounce attacks on innocent civilians. Oh, you come the black holes is vegetarian. Eric J, the biggest controlled opposition. Now, Eric Dubé's book is complete and utter dishwater, but watch my flat Earth video. I take it apart. I really do. Where are we now? I'm gonna have to go skip down a little bit. I think Rabbit. Despite the fact you're as nutty as a giant-sized nutty bar with extra nuts, you're probably my favourite conspiracy theory nut. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm glad that's about the politest thing you said, Rabbit. You know, useful idiot. Yeah, useful idiots. Yeah, Lisa. Rabbit did say me. He actually did say me, didn't he, Lisa? All right. Yeah, vegetarian. What you say about Judaism and Islam again? Using a Mossad motto to say anything about Judaism is false, but Islam, about the fundamentalist Islam, you're correct. Although, of course, Muslims at the moment are being essentially this counter-integration problem, which is deliberate. That's why they're putting hate preachers in mosques, because they want radicalization. That's the point. Are we now? Okay. Oh, right, we're back to the bottom again. Oh. Where are we now? Oh, Kerry Cassidy grew up on a military base. I see. Okay. That's not in itself incriminating. I mean, I spent 2 months on a military base once. HMS Raleigh. What does that mean about me? All right. I'd say, when it comes to shills, I've said this on other videos, you get evidence. You gather, keep your mouth shut and go for the evidence before you start mouthing off on YouTube and whatever else it is. Yeah, I mean, hey DJ, hello, how are you? Yeah. Anyway, James, yeah, the Iran does have the ability to take out ships, which is why it's odd they actually didn't sink any of these tankers. They just damaged them. I don't understand what it's all about. No one was killed. There was some damage done to the ships. An Iranian ship has actually been captured by the Royal Navy, and there's been harassment of Royal Navy vessels. Oh, Lisa, I will need to pee in a minute, actually, and I'm going to end the live stream actually soon because I'm getting tired now. It's actually 3.5 hours we've been talking. I knew this would be a long one. Give piss a chance. I'm funny in a nice way, says Lisa. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to skip to the bottom. James says, give well-oiled, a very angry, naked feminist a chance. Angry feminists like Vanessa from the BBC. Which one's that, Vrillon? Vanessa Feltz. She's quite pretty, actually, but I don't know. Again, I can't. If someone's Merkel, did you see Merkel shaking? I'm just going to have to speed up a little bit reading these. Yeah, what's up with her? She's really got some. Perhaps the end of them is nigh. I mean, she's really got Parkinson's or something. The problem is she's already stepping down in a few months, and her successor is basically a clone of her. They're actually calling this new lady, this young woman's taking off. They're already calling her Merkel's mini-me. I was programmed from an early age. That explains my Anne Widdecombe posters. Anne Widdecombe. Oh, I liked her speech. I really did. I thought her speech was brilliant. Greer is a nasty. Yeah, the charging money for the UFO things. That is. Well, Greer has a big ego problem, doesn't he? I mean, when someone has an ego problem, you don't need to subvert them. They will subvert themselves. They'll feed whatever they want for their ego. Are we now? Anne Widdecombe is adorable. I really respected her speech she did in the EU Parliament. I thought it was excellent. It really triggered David Lammy. Did you see that? And that makes it even better. By the way, deception, unmasking more Mossad officer in the non-fiction book, Katza. Yeah, great. Thanks, Vrillon. It has, Lisa. I think when I reach the end now. Now, guys, yes, I think I'll have to leave it. So, do you mind if I leave it now? It's been 3.5 more than plus hours, and you've been great. I've been Ben. I think we've really done a great, long, detailed video about the 70th anniversary of 1984, the book by George Orwell. And so I wish you a pleasant evening. Night, Lisa, DJ B2, James Tilly Matthews, Phuket, Vrillon, Try Something Vegetarian, a new contributor. Welcome, Try Something Vegetarian. You have a good one too, DJ. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, DJ. You take care. Sleep well, guys. Sleep. Have a really, really good sleep. Phuket, I am. After 3.5 hours, it's to be expected. Cheers, Gary. Night, Gary. Night, Lisa. Sleep well, Lisa. You take care. Bye, Paul W. See you, Phuket. You're welcome, Phuket. Night. It's like the Waltons, isn't it? There's still 50 people watching. Good night, Mom. Good night, Granddad. I am going to pour another one. It's midnight. Maybe have one more before bed. Yeah. Tomato, Yoran. Take care. Good night, Vrillon. Night, Lisa. You guys have been great. Oh, yes, Gary, I am. You sleep well, Gary. You really do. And I don't have to work. Yes, thank you. You're welcome, vegetarian, and welcome to the show. You know, I don't have to work this weekend because the person I normally work for is away. So I've got 2 days off. I don't normally get days off. Yeah. New ECB for convicted fraudster. All right. Night. On thy fairy. House on the prairie. Yeah. See you guys. Good night, Veggie. Take care. Try weed. Okay. I'll try not to eat cadavers. And you take care, all of you. Blessings and light to the lot of you. Yeah, please do, Gary. I'll keep you posted with dreaming sources. I'll try and expand my consciousness. Yeah. Cheers, vegetarian. Okay, guys, I'm ending the live stream. Thanks, one, and thank you all. And happy birthday, happy 70th birthday, 1984, by George Orwell. See you, Phuket.